Oh, yeah, we're doing this again, right? Let's get fired up. Wednesday, October 9th, 2024. You're looking at him, B Sizzle, right at you, Brian Campbell, and this is the BCX, the Brian Campbell Experience, Campbell's Rambles, Episode 3. I got my co-host, Reginald Jackson, if you're nasty, right here. And no, Reggie, you're a good guy. You're a good guy. Reggie, look at the people, right? Communicate with them. Talk to them, right? Tell them your story. All right, there we go. Hey, this is what we do here. I answer your questions after I ramble for a bit. Then I ramble while answering your questions. And then after that, I'll just continue to ramble. All right. And even after they turn off the mic, fired up to be here. The BCX, right? Is that what we're doing with this thing? We're going to put that on a t-shirt one day, BCX. Not this t-shirt, though. That's the former pound for pound king, Henan Barao, fresh out of the Reebok era. But I'm here in my basement in Connecticut. Shout out and love, respect, and prayers out to everybody battling this incredible storm. My parents live in northeast Florida, so they're certainly going to have to adapt to that. So everybody be safe in the end, okay? Be safe, be safe. Shout out to Perfect Speller right here. Yep. 1,000 bottles of AG1. Yeah, very Diddy-like, but more green and healthy. And I think I'm an official lord after how much I've ingested of that great green stuff. Reggie, don't bite the wires. All right. Hey, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to have a lot of fun. Thank you for everybody for liking and subscribing to what's going on this Whack-A-Doo channel that I've launched. It took a lot of urging from a lot of you, but I'm having so much friggin' fun with it. I just finished an interview with I'll get to it, but it just, you get fired up. You're like, yeah, I like to do weird content like this. All right. Reach out and touch somebody just consensually. All right. I'm reaching for you right now. Thanks for joining. We will have a super chat, despite Luke making fun of me for exploiting all of your side incomes for my own side hustle. But, whatever. There's no pressure. But if you do, that's great. I'm going to answer the questions that you guys dropped in as well the last few days in the comment section of youtube.com/The Brian Campbell Experience. Shout out to Mikey on the ones and twos for always having my back. I want to start off, as we always do, with a couple prevalent topics. First and foremost, don't forget, guys, this Friday, Morning Combat is back to back, Jack. We are starting our twice a week, not for free either, right? No free 99 on this one. 11 a.m. Eastern Friday, remote shows. They start this week. It's finally happening. Luke Thomas and your boy BC. I mean, look, 2024 has been an ish show when it comes to Morning Combat's best laid plans, but we are still standing. So if you want us back in your life on an extended basis, beyond just the grounds of these here solo channels, then get tuned in, get fired up, get ready. Fan subs will make a return. So do hit that email address of morningcombat@gmail.com with all of your great art and pictures of you and your cats. I mean, look, does it get more handsome than this guy right here? Does it really? I mean, look at this guy. Yeah, tell him, Reg, tell him. All right, he can't wait to scratch me. We're going to do it here. We're fired up. First topic, look, David Benavidez. Let me get Reggie off my face. David Benavidez put out an Instagram post this week that just got the box fan and me just fired the heck up, and I hope you guys too. I know we're already fired up for Beterbiev-Bivol this Saturday. 6 p.m. Eastern, by the way, ESPN Plus. Do not miss that, or my chat, if you want to call it that, with Artur that you can check on this channel. But David Benavidez, the unbeaten super middleweight / light heavyweight star, he did put it out there that, yes, he's making a fight with David Morrell. They have apparently come to terms. They have signed some form of a deal. What we don't know yet are the particulars, the date, the location, what card, what network. I mean, we assume it'll be a PBC on Prime Video pay-per-view, but get fired up, okay? Because in one sense, it's like, yeah, this fight should be happening without us needing to celebrate it because it's such an easy fight to make. Two unbeaten guys in the same division, right? They were at 168. They both wanted Canelo. Canelo's doing Canelo shenanigans right now, okay? We talk about that a lot on all of these shows. So they moved up to 175, but they are both PBC fighters. This is a fight you should be able to make. And the fact that both right now are not just saying, look, I'm waiting around for Canelo or I'm waiting around for the winner of Bivol, Beterbiev. No, let's go through each other with these unbeaten records to figure it out. This is a real ass fight. And one of, I would really go as far as saying the 5 or 6 best you could make in this entire sport. You know how good unbeaten David Benavidez is. the way that he's adjusted with his commitment to his stamina and his gas tank and what he does to fighters in the second half when he starts going downhill with that volume and that power. And then you've got David Morrell Jr., who has such a cool and interesting backstory. The Cuban southpaw who relocated in Minneapolis, helped really build that or add to what is already an underrated and thriving local boxing culture and scene there. We see that when PBC goes to the Armory. But Morrell can really fight, and he was one of those guys who was trying to fight the best in the world that he could in his fifth fight, right? He picked up a interim or secondary super middleweight title very early on in his march. And even though he looked, got to be honest, a bit human in his 175 debut on a recent Riyadh Cizan fight card when he took on, I believe it was Hot Rod Kalajic. I don't necessarily hold that against him. This is a real ass matchup. And what Morrell as a southpaw brings is dynamic. Everything about him is dynamic. His speed, his ability to place his punches, his power, his head movement and trunk movement to avoid shots, the balls he fights with, the sort of flow that he dances with. This is going to be an incredible clash in one of the bigger and better fights of 2025. And you know I'm going to get overly fired up when my sport, which historically will break your heart in between loving on you like it always does, when it gets on this run where all the fights we can think of have an opportunity to get made. I mean, a big part of that, of course, is Turki Al-Sheikh in Saudi Arabia. And shout out, right? I got issues at times with the Turkey experience, but certainly not in what he's trying to do in the boxing sense. And that's spend a lot of money and make the biggest fights possible. So, we're going to get Beterbiev-Bivol this weekend. We're going to get Fury Usyk 2 in December. Like, it's almost like we don't even need that because the first one was so great and gave us the closure we're looking for. No, we're going to get it part 2. We're probably going to get Dubois AJ2 next year. We're going to get Benavidez Morrell. Can we get Shakur versus Tank? Or, can we get more of the 5 princes to continue to fight each other? Ryan Garcia will be coming back. Will a Devin Haney rematch be high on his agenda? I'm sure it will be. Boxing is, for all its constant warts, I mean, it's putting it together. Dana's jumping on board. Benavidez Morrell is a fantastic and great sign for the early part of 2025 because they are both in the early midst of their absolute physical primes, mid to late 20s. They are both proven, and certainly Benavidez more proven, and certainly on a higher level, having the back-to-back pay-per-view wins over Caleb Plant and Demetrius Andrade. But these are guys that we still kind of like don't know how great they really are. Well, let's do it the old school way and have them fight each other. You love that. I mean, that's what this sport is all about. Yes, sometimes we have to wait till Mayweather and Pacquiao are 38 and 36 respectively, or even the Bivol Beterbiev fight, right? It happens to come now that Beterbiev is 39 coming off of an injury, but he has been so close still to his absolute best in his late 30s that we're not as worried about that. Sometimes you got to wait a little bit longer. Sometimes you get them early, like we got with Tank Ragai and like we got with Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney 1. But this is such a fantastic style matchup. There's so much at stake. And maybe, just maybe, folks, and I talked about it this week on Inside the Box, episode 3 with your boy BC and my boy Rafe Bartholomew, Raphael. The whole idea of, as great as Beterbiev-Bivol will be, there is no rematch clause on there, and Beterbiev seems to be resigned. Sorry, I've got Reggie hair all over my face. Seems to be resigned to want to move up to cruiserweight next, specifically chase Jai Opataya, which is one of Turkey's most favorite fighters. What if after this fantastic light heavyweight summit this Saturday, we have a Final Four to kind of, I mean, this Saturday, it's weird to say this because this Saturday is going to give us what we always want. One face, one name, one champion, one division, undisputed, unbeaten champion for whoever wins Beterbiev-Bivol. But if Beterbiev moves up, we know that Canelo seems to only want to come to 175 if he can get Bivol. Imagine Bivol versus Canelo for all 4 belts on one side, or let's say Beterbiev wins and vacates the titles and moves up. Whatever the scenario is, could you imagine a Final Four with Canelo Bivol 2 on one side, Benavidez Morrell on the other, and the winners will finally face off? I don't know how many belts would be at stake. It would be based on what would happen this weekend. I don't know if that's a full justification for Canelo's ducking, I guess, purposely ducking both the Crawford and Benavidez fights because he prefers other fights that are seemingly easier. I know it seems like Canelo's on his way to have a fight in Japan, maybe on the same card as Naoya Inoue, which is interesting depending on the level of opponent. But I know this is very optimistic, but if that's sort of a 175 Final Four, if we reset the division next year at the top level, you got Joshua Buatsi in that group as well. Yeah, this is going to be really, really fun. I'm no longer going to sit around and go, yeah, but what about this person not working with this person or this person not want to make this fight? Because the presence of Turkey and Saudi does change everything for a boxing fan. We are allowed, I'm always optimistic in boxing because you got to pick one of two roads. I say it all the time and I mean it. You got to either be decrepit and cynical and believe that boxing is always going to break your heart. And maybe that's the only way you can survive as a fan through all of these eras where there's a lot of BS. Or you can be like me and choose the high road, choose the optimistic path. We have plenty of reasons to be optimistic about the box right now. So get ready, watch Beterbiev-Bivol this weekend. Watch my interview with Artur right now on the BCX. Watch episode 3 of Inside the Box with BC and Rafe because it's a little bit different than the flavor you get on MK, and it's special. It was always special. I'm so happy to be back at it with Rafe Bugs because it is a special cocktail when you Molotov us together, if that makes any sense. Probably not. That was topic number 1. Be optimistic, get happy. It's Benavidez-Morrell time. We're being a little bit less optimistic on my quick topic 2 here, which is women's MMA in general. I mean, what are we doing here after UFC 307 when we had 2 women's bantamweight fights on the pay-per-view level? And well, we got in some ways the answers we wanted and certainly the matchup that we hoped next, meaning Juliana Pena against Kayla Harrison. And now Amanda Nunes getting up in the bullpen. I'm sure all of you saw the video she put out aimed at Dana White. She's getting back into shape. The Lioness after retiring, a great retirement on her own terms, by the way, after, was it Aldana that she absolutely dominated and then stepped away? But how we got there is creating a lot of narratives here. One of the narratives was Luke Thomas saying, if you don't like women's MMA in 2024, then you just hate women. And I don't know if that's necessarily true. Luke can get on, Luke, he can get on his, allow him to make a point. He can get down that road and keep going, but can't we all, right? And I don't think, is it as aggressive as some of these people on MMA Twitter are saying, that the return of investment on women's fighting these days is just so minimal. UFC needs to get rid of the divisions. No, they don't. And I think that would be a bad look. But I do think they need to be really smart in how they make the higher level fights. Now, did they expect Kayla Harrison as a -900 favorite to roll through Ketlin Vieira and maybe get us really excited? Yeah, I think we all expected that. In some ways, though, I was almost happy to some degree that Kayla had to actually earn it against the number 2 contender in that division. Not a deep division at all, 135, but at least Ketlin Vieira can fight. And she made Kayla work. She made her overcome the cuts and the swelling and all of that. But there's that elephant in the room of why are we making Kayla consistently cut to 135? And then you see Kayla coming out on TMZ and saying, yeah, it was pee and blood and it needed to be hospitalized leading into the fight. And I don't know how sustainable this is for her to consistently make 135. That's why I thought she should have been fighting for the title against Pennington the last Saturday. And we got to get to this Nunes fight as fast as possible. But I got a fix, and it's my old fix, and I think it's still the right fix. What about women's heavyweight? What about saying 145 is dead and we don't talk about it anymore? So why don't we combine 35 and 45 together? Because this is heavyweight MMA when you're at this point on the female side. It kind of is. So why not 135 to 155 is your window? You don't have to kill people that can't make it. If you can cut down to 125 and be in a faster, more skillful division, then that's the choice you're going to have to make. But 135 and above, we go heavyweight. We leave it open. What if you got Amanda Nunes coming back? What if you got Kayla Harrison able to fight at full strength? What if you got Cyborg and Pacheco when their deals are up on the other side? I mean, you can start to do some things. Would that help this? Maybe. But I think in the meantime, we got to be really smart for the UFC and how you book. Like, why is Zhang Weili going to sit out this rest of the year? And Tatiana Suarez, who, again, almost like Kayla Harrison, but in a different lane, meaning I want Kayla Harrison to fight for the title as fast as possible because I don't know how much somebody who did the Olympics in the 170s in weight and did MMA at 155 can reasonably consistently make 135. But Tatiana Suarez has this other equation where we all look at her as a future champion potentially, but how long can she stay healthy? Why does she have to clear another hurdle when strawweight is about as less deep as it's ever been right now, and she's got to clear another hurdle against Jandiroba, and we're going to let Weili sit out? These are some decisions that I don't necessarily understand. And because right now the sport or, the depth in these divisions of women's MMA is at some of its lowest points, I don't think you screw around anymore with extra hurdles and extra number one contenders fights. You got great matchups to make them. Those are the fights, ultimately the women's fights that deserve, in my opinion, to still be co-main events and still be very high up on the card. But outside of that, if you have a situation like they had when Pennington was going to fight Bueno Silva for the vacant title, and then Pennington subsequently against Juliana Pena, which again, still a controversial decision when Pena was coming off a 2-year absence and got absolutely dominated her last fight. But when you do that, you know that there's only a certain ceiling that fight can be entertainment-wise, quality-wise, right? What was our biggest, not because we hate Rocky Pennington or Myra Bueno Silva or we're these absolute jerks, but because it's not high-level championship, for the most part, fights back and forth and skill levels. So does it have to be a co-main event? Or if it is a co-main event, then you better have it linked with a main event that is an absolute killer. Just my 2 cents here on how you maybe not fix women's MMA in the UFC. Hold on. Look, Reggie, you got to exit. Go for it, dude. Go for it. You got this. Kick in the butt. You got this. Thank you. But I think it would take away this sore thumb feeling that we have after 307, where people are legitimately saying, get rid of women's fight. No, don't get rid of it. I think UFC at the time, and they're actually still, as much as they are revered for the decision they made in 2013 to bring Ronda in and launch that 135 division a year later, launching 115. Now we got 125. We had 145 for a season, although did we ever really have it? I think it's important. It's important to have both sides, men and women, at the highest level. It's important to raise up another generation of young women who see this as a career path and a sport path that they can go. But when you are in seasons where you don't have great depth, make the best matchups that you can. Don't put out fights in big scenarios like this, where you already had a main event, which, yes, we knew we were going to get action. And yes, we knew we were going to get the biggest star in the business at the moment in Poatan, but don't combine that with Bueno Silva or with, Rocky versus Pena, because there is a ceiling of how entertaining that fight can actually be. And it goes 5 rounds. And now we're at this point where everybody wants it off their TV. Play the hits. Make the matchups in the most high-level spots that people really care about. If you've got a high-ranked fight, a number one contenders fight, but nobody cares about it, don't put it as the 3rd or 4th or 5th fight on a pay-per-view. Put it as a fight night main event at the Apex. I think there's some things they can do that'll take away that feeling until either the next crop of young ones come in or people get healthy that have been out. I mean, it's not to act like women's MMA across the board is decrepit and unworthy of our time on the screen right now would be disingenuous. I think it's important in UFC's history that they activated women when they did after the success of Cyborg, Carano, Tate, and Rousey in Strikeforce. So I think it's important to carry that on. But there's a lot better fighters than people think. They just got to get them together in the right circumstance. The 125 title picture, I think, is great. And it's deep. In 115, not as deep as it ever was, but you still certainly have super big names at the top that you need to see. So let's do that right. We don't need them off our TV. We don't need to drop off of these divisions. But maybe consider what I've been talking about for a while, women's heavyweight, because I think they can get a lot more done there and not potentially hurt somebody like Harris. I mean, if Harrison's going to lose in a big fight, if she fights Amanda and it finally happens, she's going to lose. You obviously want it to be because you found out that she actually wasn't as good as Amanda, and not because she had to cut off 20, 25 pounds and look like a shell of herself, where she can't wrestle at a high level, where she can only put out so much in striking. I do question that now. I think we have reasons to now, but we'll see what happens. Number 3, quickly, unofficial topic. You got to get up on this new series that Top Rank put out. I believe it's on ESPN Plus. I was able to check out some early screeners to get ahead of it. It's called The Fight Life. The premise is that they have, I think, 4 or 5 episodes, and each is sort of built around one big fight that they broadcasted in the past year, whether it was Fury Usyk 1, whether it was Teofimo in that comeback fight, moving up in weight to 140 against Josh Taylor, whether it was Sinisa Estrada and her big fight against Yokasta Valle to unify belts in the minimum weights, which she has an interesting story coming off of how much she was sort of railroaded by Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy and had to wait for her contract to expire. They are telling stories from a boxing standpoint, right? Boxing pre-fight documentaries or post-fight, they're not new, right? 24/7 always did it great. Showtime's All Access did it incredible. We've had other things that are just legendary to us, like HBO's Legendary Nights. But I think what Top Rank has succeeded here, and ESPN by proxy, is they got a new take on how to present this. So it's not just, hey, here's one episode with these two fighters and here's the behind the scenes in the locker rooms leading up through the ring. You got everybody else mic'd. They're also doing a great job, similar to the UFC Roku documentary, in my opinion, of showing how Top Rank really works. This is a historical promotion. In some ways, it is the last one standing from the old days because Don King's, barely still promoting, but Bob Arum, who began boxing promoting in the late 60s, promoted his first fight with Muhammad Ali, is 95 years old now, but has built this army below him of very well-respected Hall of Fame matchmakers and executives. Top Rank did something really cool in how they pulled back the curtain, because they don't pull back the curtain and, in my opinion, try to show themselves to be the coolest or the best possible. They kind of show the real scars of what boxing promotion is like. And there's a lot of swearing in this doc, which I actually kind of like, because that's what boxing is like. There's a lot of not, hey, boxing is this great thing and let's put lipstick on it and remind everybody what it's like when we have a big fight. They're showing you the pitfalls, the ups and downs, how much these fighters mean financially to these promotions. When Tyson Fury loses to Usyk, it's a big deal financially for them. They're showing this. You're on the inside of their production meetings and getting interviews with their on-screen talent. And I just thought it was really brilliantly done. That I came out of watching all the episodes, and I think episodes 1 and 2 are available on ESPN Plus now, but I came out of watching all the episodes just like, that's about the best way boxing has been presented in a very long time. And it's not just these two fighters that they're following around each episode. Like I said, it's sort of, they're just explaining boxing in 2024 to the general masses too. And I thought it was just really brilliantly done with the right tone, the right attitude. And I think Top Rank took some chances in what they showed, kind of, again, like UFC did with Roku, which made that documentary so refreshing. Check it out. It's called The Fight Life. And I'm going to put the BC stamp on there. I don't think you're going to be disappointed, even if you're one of these MMA fans who hates putting both hands inside the box. I mean, putting my hands in the box has been some of my greatest Saturday nights forever. I also really like the sport of boxing too. All right, my final thing to heads up with, and I'm sure we'll talk about this on Morning Combat on Friday, 11 a.m., is BKFC Marbella is in Spain, is this Saturday. And while I don't overly care about the specific fights that make up this triple header of title fights atop the card, although I do recognize that this is a big move, not just for BKFC, David Feldman, and Conor McGregor, because this is the inaugural card on DAZN. I'm fired up to see what happens in this absolute media slop fest that is Ben the Bane Davis taking on Oscar Willis. And it just turned out to be interesting that Luke had interviewed Ben Davis right when this fight was announced, just as I had interviewed Oscar Willis to launch my channel with the 20-question sit-down that we did. At first, like everybody else, I was like, man, these are some crazy mofos. And they are. I mean, they absolutely are. I mean, so is Oscar and Casey Leiden of MMA Fighting, who both took amateur MMA fights, both went through that system. What's that? Wimp to Warrior, and then it became known as, you know what I'm talking about. This is next level, though, because it's bare knuckle. And these guys actually really like each other. But I thought it was wild that I saw Aaron Bronstetter tweet out some odds there that I retweeted here. Let me see who the proprietor of these odds are, if I can. Let's see. I'm going down my own. Okay. BKFC odds via betonline.ag. Oscar Willis minus 300. Ben the Bane Davis plus 240. That's, for some reason, reading that got me all fired up to actually see this fight. Because I'm like, all right, Oscar's crazy. He is, and he's fun crazy. Yeah, he says some crazily inappropriate things while drinking with Dan Hooker. It's wild, right? I've also hung out with him socially, like earlier in the night, because I don't think I can hang out with like midnight to 4 a.m. Oscar, but I've hung out with like, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Oscar, and it's still a wild ride, and he's a fun dude, and he's a great dude. But that guy's crazy, and he gets loose in turn 4. Maybe not dissimilar to Dale Sr. at the 01, but Ben seems bigger, and he does have more sort of experience on this level. He has that karate combat fight. He took that boxing match against Anderson Silva's kid. I was shocked that Oscar was as far as minus 300, because this feels very pick-em-ish to me, but I might pick Ben Davis just on skill and experience and size. But if we're being honest, the one thing BKFC has accomplished since really coming to prominence in the last few years, outside of normalizing such a barbaric sport because of the star value they've been able to pump in. The biggest thing they've do is shown that sport is a great equalizer. Whether you have a size difference, Mike Perry versus Luke Rockhold, a great example. Whether you have a sport difference, Paulie Malignaggi against Artem Lobov, another example, even though I think Paulie got robbed. Sometimes that sport is not about all of the traditional skills. So maybe Vegas in this case, or is that an offshore book that I just referenced? Maybe they look at the scenario and go, yeah, but that Oscar guy seems way crazier. And that may be the thing that wins it. I hope both guys, exit drinking a beer with a smile on their face and aren't carved up. But we're getting closer to this thing, and now I kind of care about it. So I'm interested to see what that looks like. Who wins a boxing tournament of MMA media guys and all that? I mean, these guys are actually doing it. It's wild. I got respect, but it's like fearful, cringe respect in a way for both guys. It's like, damn. All right, there you go. I've got a mixture here as now we get into your questions of free questions you guys sent in the last few days on my YouTube channel, questions you're dropping in right now live, and of course, super chat questions where you guys are the generosity of your heart, or maybe you're just impatient or like, BC, I don't really care that much about putting shoes on Tukey, putting your boys through college, making sure Reggie Jackson is well fed, or making sure that you have outlets to buy more vinyl without pissing off your wife. Maybe you just want me to answer your question quicker. Either way, this grift is available just the same. I'm going to start quick here with a free question here the last few days. You guys have been pumping them in, and you guys are really, really getting me fired up. This one's from @Quigs_Coon. Hey, BC. I don't know if that was a racist spiel and I said that by accident, but there you go, Quigs. You got your moment. Hey, BC, could you give us a technical breakdown of Luke Thomas's shirt from his UFC 307 watch along? I wish I grabbed the photo. I heard some of you say that Luke was getting upset when they were ripping on him. Luke picked out, it's a really handsome-ish pastel, like Easter plaid shirt. It's like almost from the Helwani collection, but like, it's spring has sprung, even though it's October. I got no problems with the shirt, but I like that picture they put on, MK Reddit of Luke doing the Poeton to it. I like when Luke takes swings. He brought out the Pink Panther pants in Miami at the Versace mansion when him and I hosted the Floyd Logan media day thing there. And I hope in hindsight I didn't rip on him too much, because I like that he was like, we're in Miami, I'm going to do that. We're going to take a chance. So I'm not here to bag on Luke's fashion choices, because I may have bought that same shirt if I saw it at the store for a reasonable price. But, did I cackle at all of these MK fans being like, that's a moment we can jump on Luke and get him back? Yeah, I guess it was kind of funny. I heard Luke got upset about that. But shout out to Luke for taking some swings in that direction there. I prefer when Luke wears the same 3 black T-shirts in rotation. That's the Luke I know. But what do I know? I also got a free one here from @Street12345. Dana just referred to OSP, who, by the way, got let go by the UFC after that loss, as a kid at the Dana White Contender Series presser last night. Can you give us a ramble on the psychology behind Dana doing this to men who are in their 40s and why he won't stop? Walk us to your thought, Trug. All right. Thank you, MMA. Thank you, TFAC. All fast, no gas. There you go. Yeah, that's one of my biggest pet peeves in for when people do that. Dana does that. My old boss, Port, shout out to Port. He does that too. He's probably Dana's age. And there's like, yeah, that kid over there. I'd like to put a moratorium on that and actually put lines in the sand. I think anyone, all right, as long as here's the rules. I'm going to make them on the fly. As long as you're 40 or higher, I think you can call anybody 25 or lower a kid, because once you hit 40, you really start to feel like, oh man, I'm becoming an old piece of shit. I had that the other day. I was walking into Stop and Shop, and I don't think I look horrific. I am in the midst still of this turnover from black liver life to let me slim down and build a sustainable, in shape lifestyle. But I looked in the Stop and Shop and as I'm walking in the reflection, and I'm like, man, I'm getting really, really gray. Dude, I'm gonna be 50 like real soon. Like, hey, buck up, Buttercup. Get me yourself mentally ready, because mentally I'm largely still 22 years old, and I think a lot of you know that. But, once you get 40, I think it's fine to call someone 25 or lower kid. I don't like when Dana constantly does. I mean, OSP is like 43 years old or something like that. I mean, you know what I mean? OSP was probably in school the same time Dana was. That guy's not a kid. We got to put an end to that completely. Okay. Don't be calling them kids. I think the only other time acceptable is if you're super old and you're talking a situation where someone younger than an established timeline of age limits gets in. Imagine you're in senior housing and you're 75 and some young buck with a white pill problem moves in at 37. You're like, that kid needs to get out of here. I might accept that. Anything else from Dana in this category? These are grown ass men. All right. We ain't kids. I hate when you have a boss who's maybe 5 years older than you and he comes over, he's like, hey boys, get over here. No. I'm a man. All right. There you go. There's my take right there. Mikey, what do we got here? We got anybody that's putting some cash in the receiving bin here? Let's play this grift out here. All right, Dave Sandine always helping us out here. Any new art to show off? That's a great question, Dave. I've got this largely unfinished one that I did where here we go. We're work in progress here. And then, Luke made fun of it a lot and my wife did too. And they're pretty big critics of what we got going on. I just haven't figured out how to finish it, but I've been at the wheel here about 3 separate sessions. We're going to see where this one goes. I originally had a mountain landscape and then all these colors bled into it and we'll see. I've been taking a pause because I try to paint when what do they call, people refer to that as when the muse is speaking to you. I don't really understand that. When I can feel, when I got an itch, like I've got to create something, that's when I know it's time to paint. I'm not very good at reading. I'm not very good at forcing myself to do it in that regard. But when I do it in succession. I'll paint for 3-4 nights in a row. I'll pull out paintings that I thought were done 2 years ago and add something to them. And suddenly I've opened up a new, there's no rules in this. There's no rules in it. I'd ultimately do it because it occupies my mind in such a healthy way and allows me to really go deep away from the normal, hey, my cell phone won't stop ringing or buzzing, right? No, this allows me to get in a lane and just create. And one of my favorite thing in the world, because I'm not good, I don't pretend to have actual skills. I think you start out as an abstract painter because you realize I can't actually paint. So let's just get a little wild and wacky here. But I love when you get somewhere on a painting and you're nowhere and you hate it and you dramatically go, man, I'm just going to F this. And then you do something wild and then suddenly it becomes something else completely. And then you're like, I know where this is going now. I'm sure it's like that when you're creating music. I've just not really done a great job creating that in my life. But I'm gonna get the spark again. I'm gonna get on fire and I'm gonna make up some really weird paintings you're gonna see right there. Thank you, Dave, for shooting me out right there, shouting me out and putting a little cheese on top of that burger right there from Two Changs, right? To South Oregon bird, believe it. Ever checked out Oregon? He wants to know. Every dispensary has $3 grams. Go Ducks. Quack quack. So I've never been to the state of Oregon, but it is high up on my list, and I link it with the state of Washington. Maybe, if you're from Oregon, you don't want that linking. I'm not sure about the state rivalries over there. Like, don't try to say I'm from Massachusetts or Rhode Island, dude. I'm from Connecticut, okay? Stay the hell away in that regard. But I link those two together because I imagine from a distance, I'm a big nature head, big national park guy, that area is just gorgeous. I know a dude in my town who went to the University of Oregon and is from a small, coastal fishing village there. Maybe I always imagine that, the opening scene of I Know What You Did Last Summer is kind of like his hometown. It's just in my head. I want to go there badly. I'm more specifically, I want to go to Washington State. I want to go to North Cascades National Park. I want to go to Olympic National Park. I want to go to, Mount Rainier. I want to hit it all. All right. So yeah, I'd like to get out there eventually, do a Pacific Northwest trip and really just absolutely dominate that. I really had a lot of fun in Europe on this most recent vacation in London and Paris. And it did open my eyes that, like, don't be that scared American who's not as good of a traveler as Luke Thomas. You can do this. I know I can do more than I try and give myself to, but I just feel like there's so much on the West Coast in particular that I've yet to explore. I've yet to dominate. I want to go to Joshua Tree. I want to go to Glacier, Grand Teton. Yeah, I want to hit the favorites there. I want to do that. I want to go to Going to the Sun Road in Montana. It could change my life, maybe yours too. But thank you so much. Quick back to the free. Oh no, let's hit it right here from Connor Druk. What do you got for me? Hey, dude, thanks for helping out the great cause. You should wax poetic about Poeton for me. About what in particular here, Connor? About his greatness? I think now is the time where I don't think you can put it on thick enough. I don't, when we started MK Monday, is he the most valuable fighter in the organization? Yeah, he freaking is. I am not over yet how he has been able, forget the amount of wins, forget the amount of high-level names, and even forget the 2 championships and 2 divisions and the idea that he has a legitimate chance. Even Conor McGregor said it himself in an interview with the Schmo yesterday that I watched. Shout out to the Schmo, and where he said somebody's got to get to that unreachable, that mountaintop, the 3 division level. And Conor said it's either going to be him or me. And we always thought it was going to be Conor or somebody else if they emerge. Forget about all that. I'm still not over that this kickboxer who has no experience on the ground, and we just assume everyone's just going to take him down and expose him. And yes, I know if you're a hater, you're going to go, hey, BC, tell me how many wrestlers he fought so far. I get that. That's why we wanted to see him fight Ankalaev, even though Ankalaev says, I want to strike with him. And I don't even think Ankalaev is much of a wrestler anymore. He's kind of evolving his game. I can't believe that he wasn't able to be exposed in his first, second, or third UFC fight. I know Bruno Silva really challenged him. I know there was, moments of learning along the way. This dude came into this new sport in an advanced age with the only hook of getting ahead was he had beaten Adesanya twice in kickboxing, and now Adesanya is this champion and star. So you knew he was going to have a short path to the top if he could get there. But how easily he got there is remarkable. It's remarkable that he chose Glover Teixeira's camp in Connecticut and, bought in as a student. You can tell Poaton's a student of this game, bought in on such a level that was basically like, we're going to make this transition happen as fast as we possibly can. Nobody transitions like that. And if they do, think when Brock Lesnar finally came on the scene, obviously it helped that he's a physical freak of nature and had that one skill, NCAA heavyweight division 1 championship, that skill to be able to take you down that he could at least work off of to make up for his lack of elite sparring, and more in particular, Brock's biggest weakness, getting punched in the face, to be clear with you. If you're a super freak athlete, you got a better chance. And it's not like Poatan isn't a great athlete, but he's doing this just as much with the calling card of 2 knockout fists as he is with insane poise, just insane poise, but a real mind for this game. Glover turns out to be the perfect mentor / running mate that he could have picked to get into that camp, to aggressively learn takedown defense to where it's not even a problem for him. Now, would Ankalaev take him down? Maybe. Would John Jones take him down? And those other guys, probably. That'd be the hook. We'd have to see it. But how he is able to swim in the deepest end of the pool in 2 different divisions like nothing. Oh, you're going to debut at light heavyweight? Well, here's former champion Jan Blachowicz. You got to beat him by split decision. And then here's every other current and former champion we got, and you're going to have to knock them out on the biggest stages, on 3 consecutive major fight cards in which you accepted on short notice. And now, just effing around, you're going to go defend your title 3 times in 176 days, despite injuries, illness, and, you're replacing Conor McGregor's broken toe, even though you entered your last fight with a broken toe and broke a different toe in the fight. This is me waxing poetic. This guy is a freak. There are different, sometimes when I miss it, when I miss someone coming up, I missed Max Holloway on the way up and picked against him every fight through the 2 Aldo ones. I missed a few. I missed Bilal Muhammad, right? I didn't pick up on the certain intangibles to their game that would allow them to kind of raise some of their parts together, raise it up, and be super elite. Poaton's got these 2 things to be super elite, and, kicks and knees. But his intangibles in just about every single category are like through the roof. I cannot believe in less than 3 years we have a 2-division champion who did have a loss. And the loss is as devastating as they can freaking come when your rival, who you just knocked out, knocks you out with 2 big punches kind of early in a fight too, and then does the most insane, perfect / disrespectful celebration over your fallen body that we've ever seen, and then goes back and looks at your son crying and points at him and makes fun of him too, because Izzy remembered it from back then. That would break a lot of people. Didn't break that dude. He was right back at it. Won the light heavyweight championship within 5 months. Wax poetic. This guy is a freak. I'm sure the totality of the injuries and illnesses that he brought into that Most recent Roundtree fight probably shelves most people. There are very few people that ever could come into a sport in 3 years and be on the verge of, if the UFC would look at the historical value in this, sitting people down in the room and saying, hey, John, at this point, we're not going to even care if you fight Aspinall. You're not going to fight Ngannou. But we don't even care if you fight Aspinall. But hang around long enough for this other guy to get a shot at taking over the entire sport, at being not a historical footnote of, remember when that kickboxer came over into MMA and didn't act like he needed any transition period and actually won a title? No, that same kickboxer won 3 titles and beat John Jones to get there. If you have a chance, a window to do that as a promotion, you stop everything and you do it. We did that for we did that for Hendo versus Bisping 2 unnecessarily. And if that can get shoehorned in at a time that Hendo was 46 and juggling wins and losses in his previous few, I think we can stop traffic and try to either make Jones, if he beats Stipe versus Poatan, or F Jones. Did you see what Poatan put on Instagram yesterday? A picture of his blurred out face at the Harley-Davidson prep point with Aspinall in the front row staring at him, just like he just put a little sprinkle out there. Like, oh, by the way, guys, I'm not afraid to go fight Aspinall too if I have the chance. Give him the chance. Hey, Hunter, Mick, and Dana, give him the chance now, because these type of aliens don't come through your organization every day. And if this alien also, despite barely able to speak English, is non-cringe and cool and hilarious every single time they put a mic up to him. And oh, by the way, not that it really matters, but he also honors his heritage and his, native Brazilian upbringing in his tribe and in how he comes out. I mean, the guy's the complete package. I don't know why Myrtle broke his heart. Merle, sorry, not Myrtle. Myrtle was the Myrtle was the name of my turtle. That was an old Saved by the Bell reference. You probably didn't get it. Yeah, let him cook. Let him cook whatever recipe he wants, because it tastes good. Connor Druk, thank you for the donation. All right, you got any more of these, Mikey? You got any from the Wonganator? Because that's my guy right there. I try not to use his government name too often. But Alan W. sliding in on cue, my man. Us homeless cats need some skits and bit. Yeah, sometimes, sometimes I'll prepackage Alan a skits and bit and try to sneak it through the guard of Luke Thomas, try to put one through the 5-hole. And when he catches on, that's the gold. It's not about Shab. It's really never even been about Shab. I mean, Shab lies a lot. Let's be very honest. The lies are a real lot. But outside of that, it probably steals people material a lot. But outside of that, it's always been about getting Luke to pop. That's what have you seen this? That's what this show is built upon. Can we get Luke off the track he's on? Because he'll be on that track for a while. Okay. What do you want to say? 130. I love Alan. If you can come on this chat every Wednesday and remind me to tell you guys that lightweight Shane Mosley who made 8 title defenses at lightweight, all by knockout, was an absolute freak. And obviously he physically outgrew the division. Only he didn't move up to 140 after that. He moved up 2 divisions and beat Oscar De La Hoya in one of the greatest fights of all time in 2000 in the Staples Center. Anyone that ever wants to question Shane Mosley, yeah, he was a big name. He was in big fights. Was he really a Hall of Famer? Yeah, he's one of the best fighters of all time. At 135, he was another creature. You want to know him against Tank Davis. The only thing about mythical creature Shane Mosley at 135, he beat who they put in front of him. He defended the title 8 times by knockout, right? Like, holy crap. But it wasn't like at that point he was killing a murderer's row. When he got up to welterweight and beyond, he's facing all big names and the biggest names available all the time. What does that look like against Tank? Well, the thing about lightweight Shane Mosley was, like, if there was ever a hole in Mosley's game at the elite level, particularly at welterweight, then obviously at 154, which he kind of found was too big for him. The 2 fights against Vernon Forrest, which were at welterweight, the 2 fights against Winky Wright is really what I'm thinking of at 154. He could hit his limit because he had shorter arms. He never really lived and died behind a jab. He wasn't a pure boxer. He was an athletic puncher in so many ways, but a smart one who would get his shots off and be able to dart in and out and make his offense happen. That's going to be a problem for Tank at lightweight because he has insane speed, did Shane at 135. And the power for him, always a big puncher. Even at 54, always a big puncher. But the power Shane had at lightweight is going to be a problem. But Tank is a completely different fighter, which is what would make that matchup so special in the mythical mind machine. Because Tank can slow a fight down Canelo-wise and hit you with single shots and set you up perfectly for that opening. Maybe the difference here is that Shane had a tremendous chin. Do you remember the uppercut that Vernon Forrest hit on him that knocks out, 99.9% of the world, and Shane just gets back up? I think the fact that Tank sometimes doesn't throw enough punches, it doesn't bother him throughout his unbeaten start because he's so damn good. It's not the speed or the power necessarily. It's the placement. It's the IQ. It's how he can. I mean, look what he did to Ryan Garcia. Just set him. Rolly too. Knew that these guys are going to walk into something. Just set up the path for it and delivered. I don't know against lightweight Shane, who even though doesn't have a murderer's row that he ran through at that time, I don't know with that combination of power, speed, and output if he's going to be able to be Tank against him. I'm going to lean Mosley in that regard. I'm going to stand on my business that lightweight Mosley was different. It wasn't Roberto Duran, but he was different. And you want Pacquiao versus Roberto Duran. As much as I could give you that same rant that I gave last week about, that 135 to 140 Pacquiao. You want to talk about mythical creatures? Lightweight Mosley is a mythical creature. Pacquiao at 135 and 140 is he's the Godzilla that beats Bigfoot or at the, or whoever the other villain is at the end of the movie. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But Duran's the greatest lightweight of all time. Duran at lightweight was different than Duran at welterweight, middleweight, super middleweight, light heavyweight, cruiserweight, however far he kept going. That's a tremendous fight. I mean, that's a close fight. That's a great fight. But I think Duran is mean enough, powerful enough, and just savvy enough. He might be able to pick up the unpickupable, the patterns of Pacquiao at 135. And I mean, Marquez was the only one that could. Marquez is the only one that could time and really tame that still insanely explosive, amazing. We have no idea where his ceiling is at version of Pacquiao. The only man at 35 that can do that is Duran. So thank you, the Wonginator, for jumping in here and getting me all kinds of fired up. All right. There we go. All right. Eric Bolden, thank you for helping out the cause here. Thank you. Strawweight OnlyFans obsession. Yeah, in theory, right? But I am a married, humble man. I'm not subscribing to any OFs. Now, if I was single in my early 20s, I'd probably have to have a part-time job to offset that. That's just me being very honest with you, but that's not where I'm at today. But it is sad to see the strawweight division failing lately. All right. Two Chang's coming right back in. Thank you so much there, South Oregon Bird. What's going on with Dana in boxing? Is he going to run Turkey's league? I think so. They have been quiet on the front, and it was interesting that Dana at the Tuesday night DWCS post presser, when asked about boxing, was actually like, I don't want to talk about that tonight. I don't know what that means. I think the plans are in motion because I think that there's a lot of smart people that have reacted to the tease of Dana saying I'm in now, what he said in Dublin when I was there that weekend, with saying like, with the whole idea of, how am I trying to set this up? The whole idea that the reason why he hasn't done it since announcing this all the way back in 2017 is because it really would only work the way Dana envisions it working, with that co-signing of the potential of unlimited money to fuel the launch of it, which is what I think that's what the Saudi connection would be. It is a perfect storm right now for this to actually work. It really is, because of how the impact that Turkey and Saudi Arabia have had on the business so quickly. It's not an insane thought that they would potentially have this big of an impact because the money they're offering is so next level. And it's not just the money, to be fair. The commitment to these movie trailers and to making these events feel bigger, especially the events in Saudi, than they actually are. Like, I got to give them credit. Like, you go back to the first few, whether it was Ngannou Fury and that heavyweight one that had Joshua and Wilder in separate fights, they're flying out all the heavyweight legends. They're flying in MMA legends. Like, they really have made those big Saudi ones. They haven't had the same success elsewhere yet. Well, they did have a near record. I say near record in the Dubois Joshua because we're getting almost a WrestleMania 3 story where, Vince and company can say 93,173 all day long. Then Dave Meltzer will tell you, I saw the local report, it was really 79,000. Whatever the real number is of Dubois versus AJ, I don't think it's like a stain on Turkey's face and all them. You still put 80 something thousand in a soccer stadium for one match between these two guys. But what they've done, and maybe the LA one had a lot of hiccups, but they've made these Saudi cards feel big. And I think I've said it before on this show, but I think when we look at Turkey from a boxing sense and Dana as a boxing sense and look at their pros and cons of what they potentially are going to bring to these roles, I think they almost kind of work well together at filling in each other's blanks. Like, I think Turkey needs a strong front man to be the one doing the interviews and giving the message. I don't love when Turkey comes out and is like haphazard matchmaker. Like, I'm about to give you this great fight, but I've already got fighter A scheduled 2 months later against another even better fighter here. Like, I don't like a lot of that. I think Dana can clean that up with, if he brings the full power, like they did in Dublin. I mean, I worked for them in that card and it was fantastic. I think they could really fill in the blanks of what Turkey lacks and doesn't have, the full level organization of the PR and the promotion and the matchmaking and the all of that. And the attitude. I mean, Dana's MO, it's easier to do when you have the control he has, but his MO has always been, let's make the best fight the best. Let's make badass fights, because that's what the sport is. Like, that's what you're really buying at the end of the day. Badass fights. So I know there's a lot of questions about money and salaries, and there's a lot of questions that would have to be answered. But we're literally talking about almost unlimited money here. It's different than, oh, this billionaire is investing in this, but let's see how much money they're willing to spend. Or even different than 2015 Al Heyman getting, $400 million from Waddell and Reed and raising all that capital. I mean, this is like almost unlimited. And say what you will about what Saudi's really trying to do from more of the sports washing sense. And obviously that's what they're trying to do. Why else would they get into these big sports and they're trying to turn around their image. They're trying to make them a vacation destination. They're trying to, in some ways, change the culture. I mean, there's some good within sort of the political, we know what you're really doing here. But while they're doing that, they're also trying to make the best fights possible. I think when you don't hear news and regular updates, it could obviously be the extreme in both direction. But in this case, I'm going to say it's an extreme in a good sense. Like, anytime there's a big boxing fight being publicly negotiated and then no one's talking about it for 2 weeks, that's the best sign, because that means everyone's actually stopped using the media to try to negotiate and they're getting down to business. I think the pause of late is going to be a necessary one as we record this in early October, if they're going to come out guns blazing in 2025, like Dana has said a few times. And I still don't know what that means. Like, what network are they going to be? UFC Fight Pass? Are they going to have their own thing? Like, what is, I don't know. I mean, I'm not privy to any of this. I called one 360 Promotions fight in Dublin that had UFC backing, and it was awesome, and I loved it. But I don't really know what their real plans are beyond, the same speculation that everybody else is. But I don't think a league is the right move, just like I don't think that initial Reuters and New York Times report of Turkey buying all the promoters is the right move. No, that's too heavy-handed. Dana nailed it with the HBO comparison. If they create an understanding in this business that whether you're Top Rank or you're PBC or you're whomever, get your network deal, put on regular shows, build your fighters up. But you should want your best fighters to get to a certain point where they're no longer fighting on, your network anymore. They're fighting on what we're doing here, because in theory, everyone's going to get paid the most they ever will for it. And if they do this right, and let's give Dana flowers on this, his standards of production are through the roof, right? Like, that's what he really cares about. If they get this right and give it to us right, and the price is right and everything's right, we need that. We need that. We need a return to one dominant platform, not one dominant promoter or one dominant network who will only put on fights with the promoters that'll sign with them. We need what we used to have with HBO and Showtime right there. And the idea that if a fight gets big enough, it's going to go up there on HBO with Jim and Max and Roy and, Larry and George Foreman, who was awesome. Gil Clancy, who was awesome. Manuel Stewart, great history there in HBO, just like Showtime. I think Dana should go after that, because I don't think Dana would work as a promoter. I think he already kind of figured that out. But if he could run the biggest platform that presents it, he's great at that. And I almost want him to take his foot off the MMA gas. I mean, I don't know. Like, you hear rumors of Hunter Campbell really calling more of the show. And I don't really know. I mean, whatever. But, since the sale in 2016, I feel like through the years, Dana's role has diminished enough of this slap stuff. Put it all in the boxing lane. Let's go. Let's see what you can do. You're a boxing guy. Let's see what you can do. I'm ready. You got my attention. You got my optimism. You got my want for this to work. You also got my number if we're looking to, just half kidding. You know what I'm talking about. All right, there we go. There we go. That's that. Let me get back to a free one here, and I appreciate all of your desires to help me, help you, help me. Thank you very much. At RLS 2475. BC, at what age did you really get into boxing? But by that, I mean, you went in and did your research on fighters, coaches, weight classes, organizations, and so forth. I won't go long on this answer because you deserve shorter answers from me. And because I always go long on this answer on every show I'm on, because I love boxing so much and love to tell my origin story. But even though it was the 87 Hagler-Leonard fight that officially made me a real fan, and then it was 90s heavyweights, really, but from Douglas Tyson through Holyfield, Foreman, through all the big ones there, I was in the 90s still a casual high level fan, an aggressive. I live and die for it, but I'm only watching heavyweight boxing, Roy Jones, definitely Nassim Hamed. And in the late 90s, the rise of Oscar, Tito, and Shane, for sure. But I would watch heavyweight boxing and read the articles in Sports Illustrated, all pre-internet. I slowly became a bit more of a deeper casual fan in the late 90s because the NBA, as you guys know, if you lived in the 90s, just kept escalating, and I became the biggest NBA fan of all time. I also got back into pro wrestling in 96 with the Monday Night Wars, and that took up a lot of time. So I was really like pay-per-view / heavyweight only. The thing that kept me in it in the late 90s and even early aughts was having the illegal cable box, being able to, in my free time, flip through and say, oh, what's this boxing pay-per-view? Let me see it. But it wasn't until 2004 when I started sparring on the side. And I've told you that story a million times, start to saw the sport as the science it is for the first time. Bought 1 million DVDs online. And now we're in the internet life. And I was late to the internet, like in terms of myself having it at every step of the way. But, once you could start going on Max Boxing forums back then, you know what I mean? And I'm talking to tape traders all the time, and they're telling me about the next great fight. It was right around 2004 that I went from career, big ticket, casual, but intense casual fan, very intense at the highest level, to I think I need to this is going to be my life. And that's the coolest thing about what happens in your life. And if you sort of follow, I don't know if you want to say trends or like epiphanies or these moments of like a new chapter has opened in my life and I don't know what this is, but I can't stop. I'll never forget my roommate at the time, Bogo, my best friend, going like, what are you doing? You're watching all this boxing. You're staying home on every Saturday night. Like, this is your life. I'm working in the factory at that time. I'm writing for newspapers on the side. I wasn't even at ESPN yet. And I just remember looking at him going like, I don't know. I have no idea where this is going, but I can't stop. It's just like when you meet a girl and you're like, I'm going to marry this girl. And I know it. I was going to marry this disgusting sport, and I freaking knew it. So yeah, that's when I needed to know everything, not just about today, but about all those years that I was in and out or casual, and I bought the complete collections. And no one said, BC, YouTube would be around in a year. Maybe that's why I need your donations. No, it's cool. It's cool. Super chat for life. There you go. One more on the free zone here from Tacoma Aroma. Great name, becoming a recurring great name on this chat. What's an NBA Finals matchup that never was in the 90s that you wished would have happened? And who's somebody you wish would have gotten a ring and that didn't? All right. I think it's easy on the 90s on the biggest matchup we never got, without question, was the Chicago Bulls against the Houston Rockets, in my opinion. And it's good that Olajuwon, because he was that great, particularly in that stretch of his career, was able to capitalize on the 2 years that Jordan was either not present or not his full self, right? When he came back late in the 95 season with a body still built for baseball and just didn't have like the next level gas tank. Still was a killer, could still drop a double nickel on the Knicks in the Garden or hit that game winner at the Omni against the Hawks when he would kiss the floor afterwards. But, Nick Anderson exposed him in those playoffs. So I'm really glad that the Houston Rockets filled that hole because they were a great team in terms of role players and and in terms of grittiness and defense and all of that. And the trade in 95 to acquire Clyde Drexler obviously put them over the top in a new direction, even though they almost choked. And that's a great, it's one of the great playoff runs, that 95 Rockets run, because they were down 3-1 in the conference semifinals and the conference finals, and were written off by the local media in Houston as chokers, and it produced Rudy T saying, it's not quite Jim Valvano, never give up, don't ever give up, but it's, don't ever underestimate the heart of a champion. You're damn right, Rudy T. I'm glad you recovered from Kermit Washington breaking your face, because that was a vicious punch. But the Bulls win from 91 to 93. Jordan leaves, and then they win from 96 to 98. So that's obviously the matchup. Who wins that one? That's interesting, because you could really, argue that particularly in the pivot, and we're still in the 90s when the big man rules, nobody was better than Olajuwon in 93 and 94. And I say that with a little bit of an asterisk, because I feel like people forget how great David Robinson was from his rookie year, really through Tim Duncan getting drafted. I mean, he still had two more great years with Duncan by his side, and then they became a force. But don't ever sleep on how truly great, particularly statistically, Robinson was. But that's the hole in those Bulls teams' middle. I mean, Longley was the most effective offensively as a Jordan starting pivot player, but that's their hole. And if we're talking about the 95 Rockets, and then you got Drexler to kind of contend with Jordan, well, now you're in the game. You know what I mean? And you've got role players that'll kill you, like Ori and Ellie. Those guys are those guys, they'll cut your heart out. The Ellie with the kiss of death. I mean, they will, I don't have to tell you about Ori, but that's the matchup. Who do I wish most would have gotten a ring is Charles Barkley. I'm not going to say Karl Malone. We all hate Karl Malone. We should. The guy's like a POS. I mean, he was great and he was durable, and he came really close twice in 97 and 98. But don't ever forget how much of a choker in reality Karl Malone was in big moments. Like, no one remembers for some reason was it the 95 or 96 Western Conference Finals against 96 against the Sonics, when he just completely botched those 2 free throws late and just gave the game away. Barkley's the one that I wish had gotten, because he's way too great to have that reputation. And they play it up as a joke on Inside the NBA, and you love it because Shaq and Kenny the Jet are great at rousing him. But he could have got one. The problem was that Barkley at times would coast on his ability. And how many times did we, and then I think he was also injury laden during some years with the Suns that could have been potential finals runs for them to get back there after his first year with the Suns in 93 when he won the MVP. But that's the best version of him there was. And you could argue that we only see that 93 version of Barkley, who, yes, had been floundering, particularly in 92 on the Sixers when they didn't even make the playoffs. Although he did honor Magic and wore number 32 that year, even though it was Billy Cunningham's number up in the rafters. Shout out for everyone in that equation. It was very respectful. But Barkley went to Barcelona with the Dream Team, learned from Jordan how to really be a killer, how to really get after it, got in the best shape of his life, and was absolutely incredible in 93 and came as close as you could. That will always be one of my favorite years in NBA history, but really one of my favorite teams to watch, because TNT had bought in early that this Suns team with Barkley is probably going to the finals. So I think they broadcasted every single game of theirs that season, or at least it felt that way. So do you remember that buzzer beater Barkley hit at Portland with 0.8 seconds left when they threw it off the backboard and he scooped it up and threw it in? I mean, that was a magical season. You're not going to beat that version of Jordan, though. They came close. You're not going to beat him, though. I wish he would have gotten one. Maybe if he could have got one, maybe in the 2 years Jordan was gone, 94 and 95, if Barkley wasn't injured in both of those years, if Kevin Johnson wasn't injured in most of that stretch, maybe they get one of those instead of the Rockets, and we don't have this conversation. But you probably don't even care about this conversation, but I really do. I really care about things that most people don't. So we're going to see how far this channel actually goes, all right? But I just sat down with John Brennan from Real World Season 2 Los Angeles, the cowboy, true story, for like 45 minutes earlier. It was one of the greatest moments of my life, all right? We are wired differently, but that's fine. What else you got, Chin? What else you got, Mikey? What are we doing here? All right. A young BC and pals are smoking doobies and listening to Pearl Jam in a Chrysler van. This is a very close. Wow. What's your go-to? So, Lazy Bed, first of all, thank you for the donation. Second of all, thank you for trying to make an early run here as the MVP of this Campbell Ramble live chat, and maybe even the main card minute on most weekends, unless Saul jumps in there. But I don't know if you heard me tell different life stories where you put this together. But listening to Pearl Jam, and what's funny is I didn't listen to Pearl Jam 10 in a Chrysler Baron, but that was the car I learned to drive. It was my mom's car when I had that growing up. So that's funny that you wrote that. I had life-changing listens to 10 by Pearl Jam in Rich Brennia's car, the little green Honda Civic, in the back on the way home from school. That just, it was one of the, there's golden listens in your life to certain albums where you can almost look back and go, I remember the stretch of listen number 7 through 15 of that album, that true golden period where you begin to get the album, you begin to anticipate, but even with the anticipation, each turn, each chord change, each moment will just blow you away. I'll never forget the purity of a car pulling up in front of my house to drop me off after school, but nobody getting out of the car because we're in track 5 on 10 right now on the cassette deck. And there's an unspoken conversation going on of just like, oh my God, this record is so good. I'm not even going to get out of the car. I'm not even going to ask you to open that door, right? Because Porch just started. You know what I mean? Yeah, take a good look. Hear my name, right? This could be, right? This could be. I mean, there's something so pure about discovering the right album at the right time when it speaks to you. That is a raw emotion album that would speak to the 14, 15-year-old me. Yeah. What was your actual question, Lazy Bet? Mike, can we go back to that? He did trigger me right there, though. It probably involved a Chrysler Baron and a doobie. Do you have it? Do we have this anymore? Am I out? Am I here alone? All right, there we go. How do we cover up the smell of that? I always believed of not doing that in a car. Then you don't have to worry about that because you're never going to properly cover it up, right? Even in your first apartment or even in your dorm room, it's never going to properly. So if you can remove, now you can remove that with the edible train, but if you can remove that roadblock in the equation, I think that's the best way to beat it. I know that's like saying, the best way to not get an STD is to be celibate. People don't like that. People don't want to be celibate. You know what I mean? They watch strawweight fights. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I don't have a great, like, this is what we did. We sprayed a lot of cologne on there and hope for the best. You know what I mean? And you get found out eventually. You know that though. Let's go to a one over here on the non-peg because I respect people of all whatever they're bringing here. At MJ Silverfang, BC, how is the fitness journey going? I see you on MK flexing that left tricep for the camera. I always sit at that angle so that I don't look fat, because I'll like to sit comfortably most of the time like this, and then I'm gonna look really fat on camera and be mad at myself. So apparently sitting at that angle makes it look like I have triceratops tries. Thank you for the shout out right there, Silverfang. I'm doing good on the journey. So I'm on like month 11 since I've started with my trainer, Darren Robinson, who I've shouted out a few times. What I really wanted to do was not get in the best shape of my life for 4 months, like people do ahead of like a high school reunion or a big wedding, and just show everybody, look, I could do it, and then I'll go back to my old ways. I wanted to build sustainability. I don't want to have liver problems where I'm getting my numbers checked every 6 months, right? Like I'm not into that. So this program that I got onto with him, and he's an MK fan. That's how we hooked up, and he's fantastic. He could be the drill sergeant I need sometimes. And I was definitely all in living the life around March, April, May. And I went from 224 pounds down to like 208, and I was shredded with abs. And it was a wild time to be alive. It's a rare moment. Since then, I've certainly had more ups and downs and swings. Sometimes it's dictated by a week and a half on the road or what have you. But what I've really tried to do was never break. Understand that I'm going to bend. Understand that I want to be at 100% of the food side of this equation, but maybe I can get by, at 90, and then maybe next week it's got to be 70, but I'm going to get back up to 90. I always know I'm not going to break off. I'm not going to fall apart, but I've got to build sustainability because there are curveballs in life that affect. And a big part of me biting down and going for it this time was for my mental health, because, when you're a carb sugar head, like I've been for most of my life, it can start dictating your mood for you. You know what I mean? And who wants to be that old bitter dude that lives in a one-room efficiency with a waterbed where he can reach his sink from the waterbed while he's watching TV at night, because he's watching TV alone. He's not, people don't want to live with that guy. So I was really focused on building the sustainability, knowing that with sometimes the challenges of mental health, that there will be curveballs coming. You may have some family drama or something like this that might set you off. I might fall for a day or two, but I want to get back on. So I think I'm doing a good job building, maintaining and moving upwards. I just want to obviously get back to more higher end consistency. I want to look great on camera. I'm trying to take this broadcasting dream, to the next level. That's what I care about. This is my goal in life. This is my passion. This is my life. That's the spirit I bring to this show. So I'm fighting the good fight, but I'm trying to build sustainability. So when I have a step back, I'm not going to be upset at myself. I'm going to get back on the horse, understand, try to figure out where did I go wrong there? And I'm learning a lot in the process every time I have a misstep, because, there's a lot of men in my family that have had a lot of issues with heart attacks and strokes and all that stuff. I don't want to live that life. I don't want to put people in that type of stress for my own well-being. And I want to be a cool ass active grandfather one day. You know what I mean? So this is my life. This is my focus and my passion. And I'm on the way there. It's working out. I just got to stop getting injured in the gym. And I've got to, not let one day off turn into 3 or 4. But we all fight that battle on a regular basis. All right, Mikey, let's keep alternating here. What else you got here in the live chat? Hit me with some beauties here. From Joe Carey. Wow, Joe, is that English pounds you're giving me here? Hey, it all works at the end of the day in this offering plate. Thank you. Please tell me you saw Adesanya. Forget who Luke was. I was front row of MKLDN live show. Thank you for the continuous art. Well, Joe, it's either art or it's a middle-aged man talking in circles about his own fitness journey. You may have tuned out from that, but I appreciate that. So I did see that, but I didn't want to blast it on like, have you seen the shit and dunk on Luke in like a Hasselhoff moment, because I don't think it was what it was presented as. I think when people cut that clip tight and Joe Rogan's like, hey, Izzy, do you see what Luke Thomas did? And Izzy's like, who's that? I don't know that. I think like 2 seconds later, I ended up seeing the full clip and it's just like, oh yeah, I know that guy. Yeah, dude, that happens there. And I wouldn't want to dunk on Luke for that anyway. I mean, sometimes we have seasons where we're kind of friendly with a certain fighter and they feel like they're our boy and you feel like you can get interviews with them. And then sometimes, that floats away. I'm not, we're not in it at the end of the day to be friends with these guys. I like it. Who's a great dude? Brandon Royval. Shout out. I like that guy. A lot of MK friendly fighters that have, shown their true colors. And I like that. But I'm one that guy can't wrestle comment away from them not talking to us either. So that happens too. So I think in this case, it was a misunderstanding. But yeah, in our history of like me being that other guy or the co-host on Rogan, it was kind of a fun moment and it kind of switched back on Luke. But I don't think it was that at the end of the day. I think he's got a lot of respect for Luke, like I do, and his pastel Easter shirt. I'm a big fan of that as well. So there you go. What else we got in here, Mikey? Keep them flying in. Oh, Mermot. That's my guy right there. What is that? SGD? What does that even mean? I don't know, but I like it. All right. Hey, BC, do you take song cover requests? Well, I don't think you want me to sing them or play them. So no, I don't do that. If you want me to talk about something like that, yes. But no, Mermot, I don't take those requests. I would take your request if you're like, hey, BC, I need you to hear this album by this artist. Give it a chance. It could change your life. I don't take those offerings lightly. You can't always take advantage of all of them, right? You don't always have the time, or maybe you listen to something that doesn't hit. But when someone points out, a band or a record to you that it wasn't even on your radar, or maybe it was, but you misidentified that band, as we so often do, because classic rock radio lied to us about so many of these bands, right? When you get in and uncover the jewel in there, the magic inside, you always link it up to who showed it to you. Those people need to be protected and loved on. But no, I'm pretty bad on a guitar, and I really haven't. My wife's always on me to get back on it. Of course she wants me to write some songs and deliver. I've always been a 3 to 5 chord guy, but there's been a disconnect. I was a security guard at my uncle's music music camp one time for a whole summer. So I took all these classes when I was like 25 and I got decent. I finally started to understand some level of music theory and be able to do more things beyond just play 3-5 chords and whatever. But I'm well out of practice. I can't even tune my own guitar. Okay. So that's where we're at right now. But I'm not going to give up hope. All right. So Murma, what the hell are you talking about? You want me to cover some songs? No, I don't do that shit. All right. I'll draw a painting of you. I'll draw a self-portrait of you. It'll probably look like a penis. But thank you for your patronage in here. I hope we can make fun of each other, even in a consensual transactional relationship like we have right here. All right, let me jump back into another one of these. I promised myself that I was going to pick, a block of those questions that you send in the comment section on there, and I was going to be quick with them. Still working on that. All right, this one is from at Carl Blainbridge. Do you feel, BC, that UFC has villainized wrestling? The combination of Pereira's matchmaking, false narratives about Ankalaev, Mokaev being cut, etc., has created the hostility to anyone daring to grapple. It's arguably always been there, but I don't remember it being this hostile. Thank you, Carl, for saying that. I fully agree with you, and I felt this lately. I haven't really put it to words in this exact way. But okay, do I want a world where we kind of used to be, which maybe was the onus beyond changing, the scoring and being more focused on damage and trying to phase out lay-in prayers? Yes, I want to do that. But have we gone too far? And does that mix in with who Dana is and what he's trying to create, that it becomes almost a huge negative to anyone looking to wrestle who then can instantly advance into full mount and take you out with ground and pound? Because if you're a ground and pounder, then we're going to be like, yeah, take him down. Let's see it. But if you're, a Marab or someone else where you can use it to win rounds, but then people get upset at it, I don't necessarily like that trend. There's negative styles in every sport. I like that there's even if I covered a lot of high school basketball through the years for remember newspapers used to be this thing that we would read in the morning. And it was great. And, sometimes I'd be covering a country school up in the Berkshire League, up in the northwest corner of Connecticut, and they may be super small in the tournament. And they might be doing some 1948 bullshit with 4 corners and stalling because there's no shot clocks in this area in high school. And I kind of had respect. I'm like, that's not a marketable way to live your life. But it's in play in the rules, and you got to beat it. And I've seen some upsets with that style. We're going to play a game up to 27, basically. We're going to shoot twice per quarter. You're not going to get laid with that style. But there's a style and there's specialists within that I always felt should have a chance, whether you're John Fitch or anybody. You should have a chance to ride your style, and it's up for people to beat you. And maybe you go through an era where a certain champion isn't as marketable as the company would want him to be. And that's understandable. It would be understandable if the promotion goes back in the war room and is like, man, what the F with that guy wrestling again? But to come out and always voice against it. And I think people have gone too far with the interpretation of the scoring where, yeah, you villainize people and you were almost looking at it as a weakness because you can hold somebody down. It really comes down to how you interpret the rules. I know Big John McCarthy, who was one of the interpreters, always says the word we wanted was damage, but they made us change it and blah, blah, blah. I think if you read the interpretation of the rules, that if damage isn't part of the equation, if it's a close fight without a lot of damage, then if you really read the way it's explained, I think it can make sense in a wrestling sense too. If you take somebody out of their game and completely neutralize what they want to do, and you put them in an uncomfortable position on their back where they have to carry your weight and potentially be vulnerable to both submissions and strikes, even if it's boring to the UFC fans who are here for blood and might start booing, I don't think we should completely villainize it, even though I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to sell fun and you're trying to sell knockouts. But I've always felt like it's genius that Dana would put in bonuses for finishes to incentivize that. Because ultimately that's what you want, really fun fights. But if you want really fun fights, you also really want to have champions and the best fighters in the world. And if the best fighters in the world are going to fight the best fighters in the world, right? It's not always going to be crazy knockouts because of the skill level and the defense, and in some cases, the wrestling ability and all these things that can cancel each other out. I don't always love when we put all the onus into chicks dig the knockouts. And, if you really look at the Dana White Contender Series, people are penalized, Brendan Lucknane, penalized for wrestling and forced to go elsewhere. I think it has gone too far. I really do. And even if you told me the payoff for that would be a little bit more boring control, I think if you empower the referees more to have a consistent set of standards in terms of warnings of needing you to be more active, of course, but if you're not, then they can step in. I think if you reimagine and relook at it, there is a way to utilize the officials more in that sense. But you still got to fix the weird scoring system, reason boxing scoring system, and you still got to, I don't know, almost inform your announcers or soften a bit as a company message that, yeah, we'd prefer everybody to be knockout specialists, but we're also promoting the very best in the world in this art form, in this craft, in this sport. Sometimes, if you don't do that, if you adopt in my opinion, if you adopt the same mindset that both the NBA and NFL has to their specific sports, either in the NFL's case to get out of the way of unnecessary hits that lead to more brain trauma and stars like quarterbacks being out of the lineup, because I think that was their onus. Where in the NBA, the changes they made in the early to mid 2000s of opening up the lane, defensive 3 seconds, allowing you to play zone defense, taking away the hand check, because they really were getting leery of where the post-Jordan late 90s into early 2000s were becoming with all of those low-scoring games and lockdown defense. It was more fun in the 90s when it was like rough and tumble Knicks doing it. But when the whole league started doing it, they're like, no, we got to change this. NFL again did the same thing, more out of safety, in my opinion. But it was a perfect storm for them. We're going to make these changes for safety, but it's automatically going to increase scoring and make it a more fun schoolyard league where the defense is really behind the 8 ball most of the time. When you make those changes, you're playing into like such high levels of money and TV contracts, and in this case, NFL trying to get away from head trauma, that if your payoff is increased offense, and maybe it's not like when my grandpa played, that's fine. I fear doing that in fight sports, because if you mess with the rules too much, it's no longer what it actually is, a clean and fair fight, in my opinion. And I think if you continue to alter rules that makes having control in wrestling hard to impossible, or just villainizing it to the, and making it seem like it's a failure in your game, you're going to have kickboxing. So do you want to be a kickboxing league with submissions, or do you know what I mean? Or do you want to be the full mixed martial arts? So I think you got to be a little bit savvier in how you kind of police the trends when certain styles, in this case, wrestling, which can be boring at times, have a potential to become too dominant. Just my soapbox 2 cents, but I got this show every Wednesday where I'm allowed to just speak in circles until you guys tune out. So that's what we did right here. Let me get another free one here at Matt Sniper 13. He's got like some capitalized, some not, so he looks like a serial killer, and he's a sniper, so I'm trying not to disrespect him publicly, but shout out to you. Hey, BC, you ever pick up an instrument and tried your hand at learning? We share a passion for music, and I picked up guitar 3 years ago. Easily one of the best decisions in my life. So I just ranted already about guitar. Me not getting on board with instruments has been the big failure of my life, and it hasn't been without opportunity that I've largely blown myself due to being a lazy dirtle. But for the passion that I have now for music, which I've had a passion of this, well, a beginning passion of this level since like the end of high school, I think it really intensified into, maybe even unsafe levels of passion in my mid-20s when I was almost a professional concert goer in my free time. I had a 100 disc CD changer in my first apartment living room. And I had like mixes already pre-programmed that, you want like the, hey, we got a chick over on the couch mix or whatever. Do you want the real high mix? The fact that I didn't mirror those years with going to the basics, humbling myself, and learning, how to read and play music, so that it's not just I can pick up a guitar and be proficient and play my wife a love song and entertain you at a party, but maybe I can begin somebody that's truly understands music and can jump around from instrument to instrument and actually start creating. I did have a period with an uncle of mine where we were screwing around and writing songs, and it was awesome. It was, it was what it was in terms of quality, but it was awesome. But I look back and realized I failed myself, and I'm probably failing myself now because it's, I do agree it's never too late to start anything. And I do believe that if I did restart, which is what you're saying you did, and I have had other MK people say like, hey, I joined my church band because there was an opening and I learned how to play drums. It changed my life. It could change yours. I wish it would. I had a dad that was insanely into music. And even though his music changed and went away from the genres that I've stuck in, classic rock, psychedelics, my dad's been more of either a blues fan or then he went full pop and country. And I don't even know. He's into like weird YouTubers who do Beatles covers now. And they're pretty good covers. But I could have gotten into, when early school instruments like violin, like stuff like that, just learn the basics. And I was like, F that. Then I did take drum lessons, and I had a drum set in my room in 4th grade. And I had the right dad that would have stuck with it and pushed me through to wherever I wanted to go, would have supported me if I was in bands. Like I had that dad, and I think I blew it. I was too lazy. I didn't want to practice anymore. I didn't think music would be that big at that point in my life because sports had taken over, right? Pro wrestling and sports were big themes back then. Maybe it's not too late. Maybe that's what this project is about. It's not just this middle-aged guy rambling and you guys putting a few shillings in my pocket. It's me motivating myself because anything is possible. I'd love to play piano. I would love to play piano. I would love to play guitar. I'd love to do it all. All right. Maybe one day. There you go. That's all I got for it. I've had some hot periods on guitar, but they've always mixed with me just giving up for 3 years. And that's not the key to success in any lane. Okay. Let's build consistency in our life. All right. Consensual consistency. What else you got, Mikey? You got anything else? I mean, I'll keep banging. I'll just keep firing away here. All right. 2 Chainz, unbelievable, just really unbelievable. This guy, great. I looks like a great hang. Might stab me in my sleep one day, but looks like a decent hang too. I think he's a big Vegas guy. Current favorite comedians, besides the Comedy Store Rat Pack, right? I don't even think they're there anymore. So I've had like a mismanaged love of stand-up comedy through the years, meaning like, Dennis Leary was my guy, and he's kind of fraudish with his stealing of Bill Hicks, although again, I'll stand by No Cure for Cancer from 1992. It's still holding up to today, even with the outdated jokes. The delivery is just so over the top and amazing. That CD was worn out in all of my friends' cars, with the singing, with the full rants. I was big on Chris Rock, particularly Bigger and Blacker, and the one before that, which was Bring the Pain. That was great, and I certainly had a run with Dice Clay. That was, I mean, I had a friend growing up shout out to Bobby Lamson. His parents let him go to see Dice Clay when he was in like 5th grade. And I really, at that point, he was 2 years older than me. I thought that was the coolest thing anyone's ever done. And it probably still is. Boy, does Dice Clay's old stuff not hold up today in every way you could possibly imagine. But it wasn't just a raunchiness, like his ability to command that stage with that level of like, fuck you coolness was, but I didn't follow and stay with the scene where I could have, a credible opinion, especially these days. I've gone to some local shows recently with, on like couples dates and have, saw a few good ones. And I've been like, man, I'm missing out. This is like seeing a concert, it's a separate form of art in that regard. But I don't necessarily follow anyone today. Although that dude that hosts the, that dude Cooney that hosts the 10 Minutes to Shab show, that guy's freaking hilarious. Is that guy a good comedian? I don't know, but that guy and his buddy is funny too. But I'd probably be big fans of everyone I've met through the Bopaverse. You know what I mean? I'll probably be like, no, I'm just kidding. Are there good comedians in that group? I really hate Bert Kreisler. That guy's the worst. We always rip on Mikey because Mikey loves that guy. In fact, Luke Thomas just last night was texting me how much he hates Bert Kreisler. That guy does suck. The other guy too sucks too, that he hangs out with on that podcast. But what do I know? You know what I mean? I do worse jokes than them. I mean, that's why I was trying to tangle with Bop on the air. I'm like, you're the comedian. Let's go. Let's tangle. But he didn't want to. He didn't want to play. He didn't want to shoot that double leg on me that time in Miami. But it was a good time though, just the same. What else we got here, Mikey? Hit me good here. Oh, Alan Wong, right back at it. Or sorry, Alan W. It could be Wilson for all we know, right? He's not the Wonginator. Don't chase him down. Your thoughts on 4-round separate path for boxing? I know the IBA had a 4-round belt for Butterbean. Could be more action, different type of athletics. Yeah, I mean, was that a real belt? Or I mean, first of all, the IBA was never a real belt, and I know that it was a secondary or third, low NABS style sanctioning body. Not serious, but they tried hard to become it. Did they really have a real 4-round belt, or was it symbolic? I don't know. But you're asking an interesting question. Not just, hey, should there be a 4-round belt for like TV fighters that are fat and come to bang? I mean, Butterbean's a freaking legend. He was a legend in this art form. It is. I always think whether you're talking about professional boxing, highest level even of UFC. And they do this to a certain degree, but I wish they would do it more. I wish they would celebrate more the people who are this type, the people who are just go get it, fun ass brawlers, and they're TV fighters. And, that term used to be a negative because it meant, you weren't fit for championship or main events. You're a TV fighter. You'll be in a good fight with anybody. But I really respect TV fighters. You know what I mean? And some TV fighters stumble into true contention because they grow and evolve. TV fighters are great. Maybe the BMF is the ultimate version of that, but it's become more of a celebrity belt for action-friendly former title contenders who are still relevant but on the way down. I don't think you need a belt, but I wish that the UFC, they always load up with like bad heavyweight, like, if it's a pay-per-view, they'll throw a bad heavyweight fight in the main card because it's heavyweights, or they'll put a bad heavyweight fight in an Apex main event because it's heavyweights. It's Spivak Tybura too, folks. All right. I wish the first spot of every pay-per-view was like an all-star game for TV fighters, was like the King of the Four Rounders showcase special. Like Tai Tuivasa should be, in my opinion, when he's not riding a 5 to 6 fight losing skid, should be in those type of fights all the damn time. But like, let's celebrate that. You know what I mean? It does create, I guess that's what the BMF is supposed to be, to create sort of a second home for aging fighters who are still fun. And when you get aging, your reflexes will dull a little bit and you'll be in brawls and you'll be in fun fights. But no, we don't need a 4-round title for that. Let's just throw more respect at professional brawlers and TV fighters. Like, that's not for everybody. And I don't want, like we were saying with the anti-wrestling comments, I don't want to live in a highest level elite world where it's only about that. No, there's different styles and you play the rules for. I'm always big on like, let's establish the rules so I know, because I don't want anybody cheating, but I'm going to try to manipulate the rules. That's why I get in these basketball wars. I'm going to try to manipulate these rules and stretch them the best I can to try to win, because I'm a howl. What did that guy say? What did that guy, the Kill Tony guy say? I'm a hungry wolf. All right. I'm a rabid howling wolf on the basketball court. I don't know why. I don't know what started this, but as an adult, I've become just a ravage winner. I just want to win. Take no prisoners. I just want to win the game. Maybe it's a small victory. Sometimes in life we need small victories. I cling to that victory. All right. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Oh, you punched me out. Cool. Did I win the game? Yeah, I probably got issues in there. All right, let me read another one of these free ones here, okay? What a great time we're having. Maybe I'm alone in this, but what a time to be alive. Let's go over to RLS 24/7. No, we already hit that one. Sorry, my bad. I hit that one too. Yeah, there we go. Let's go to Sohail 2311, okay? Love the new channel, especially your one-on-ones with Rafe. Thank you. Rafe Boogs is that dude's awesome. If you don't know that dude, I hope some of you are, learning who he is. If you weren't hip to him and I going boxing potting through the years, but him and I both play the deranged goofball boxing fans on that show. That's a smart dude. He's my favorite writer ever. What's your question here? All right, I'll get to that in a second. His boxing writing, I think, is the most geniusly irreverent. The guy's a tremendous writer. He's a New York Times bestselling author in a bunch of different styles and genres, and he's a great dude. But I appreciate getting a chance to work with that dude again, because he's, in a boxing decrepit sense, that's my other half. You know what I'm saying? You all got, in whatever your favorite thing is, you all got that one friend who just gets it like you do. You know what I mean? Man, that guy hates women's boxing. You know what I mean? But that's Rafe. We love him for it. What's your question here? Looking ahead to the Beterbiev-Bivol fight, I'm curious, does Bivol's record of never being dropped in his pro career work to his advantage or disadvantage when facing a knockout artist like Beterbiev? That's a great question, because as much as we're talking about that Beterbiev is the bigger puncher compared to the more natural boxer in Bivol, which is true. Beterbiev's the bigger, scarier dude. And even though Beterbiev has 20 fights with 20 KOs and 20 wins, like, he has been down before. He has been hurt before. He's just a true champion and a cyborg, and his power is going to win out. But what about Bivol? Never been down. But, Rafe and I had, and maybe this is spurned from listening to that, but Rafe and I had a very interesting conversation on this week's Inside the Box about that, where he seemed to be very skeptical of Bivol's chin. We're saying ultimately, like, okay, never been down, but has it been tested enough? Has maybe part of his style been protecting that? Well, he's got such a great style, Bivol, because he's so fast for that division. He's so damn accurate. And when you put those two together, he sits down on his punches. He'll get you out of there. I mean, he's got pop on there, but he is so fluid with that upright European style built on darting in and out. He's not really there to be hit, which is going to make this fight so damn interesting, particularly in the second half after Beterbiev makes his adjustments. He seems to be more active in the second half. He seems to start going downhill. When he starts to land a little bit, we're going to find out about this Bivol chin and find out where this fight is headed. That's the central tension to this fight. But I don't know. You know, I've watched all of his fights. There's not a long history of him getting rocked. I mean, Joe Smith Jr. put on him a little bit. We got to see some recuperative ability there, but there's not a long history of that. If anyone's going to do it, it is Beterbiev. If I'm Bivol, certainly I'd love to have this reputation than not, meaning his reputation has never been dropped. So at least not that I remember. So he sort of got that, but is that real? I don't know. And Beterbiev is a different kind of power where it doesn't matter. You know, you're going to be vulnerable against him if you're there in the pocket. Can Bivol win this fight without dominating it? Because Bivol, I mean, that's what he did against Canelo. And I give him so much credit for that because I said I picked the Bivol upset of Canelo. Almost nobody was. And I'm like, no, if he fights like the bigger man, if he's willing to sit down, be the bigger man and let go, and he fucking was. And he beat Canelo up, dude. I know Canelo's, you know, back there kind of half roped open, and he's definitely great upper trunk movement, but there were times he just couldn't get out, and Bivol just lighting him up. I just don't expect Bivol to have. I think he's going to win early rounds. I just don't know if he can sustain that against Beterbiev and really keep him away with the activity and the quick jab. We're going to have to find out about the chin, and that's what happens when the best face the best. That's why this is awesome right now. What? Boxing? Yes, boxing. But this t-shirt is awesome. That's what I'm talking about. I got a little hole right here in the neck. I'm not sure what happened right there. You know, when you get shirts that are this ridiculously awesome, you got to keep them alive forever in the rotation. So that's what I got right there. Let me hit this free one again because I'm trying to get through your. I appreciate your questions here. From Matt Rise 1, which is a better album? He wants to know. Oh, they're both by Miles Davis. Bitches Brew or In a Silent Way. And by the way, those, if I believe I'm correct, came out after each other. In a Silent Way, I think was what, 69, 68, and maybe Bitches Brew in 69. Now, In a Silent Way, I don't know intimately yet. So it's going to be hard. I actually can't fully answer your question. But even though In a Silent Way, which I've listened to but haven't mastered, is part of this late 60s into 70s. I mean, really, Miles Davis brought in the idea of jazz fusion. He really was the tipping point. I mean, he really was the fulcrum in that said, we're going to reinvent it now. We're going to stick with the jazz, but we're going to bring in guitars and we're going to bring in rock band members. And it's always going to be an all-star team. I don't know how. Okay. I do know how, because Miles was, GOAT level. He was an alien. So everybody wanted to work with him, but there's just something about that era of late 60s and 70s jazz that wasn't as present in mainstream rock, where people are just willing to work with each other. When it happens in mainstream rock, it's special, whether it's, somebody showing up on your track or the otherworldly performance that Duane Allman had before his death on Eric Clapton's Derek and the Dominoes record. It's top 5 album all freaking time. And if you don't know, you better ask somebody. And it's because of Duane Allman. But that didn't happen that happened all the time in jazz, which is wild. Even when you had these jazz supergroups, it really started with Miles. He basically would recruit everybody to come to him. The thing is, Bitches Brew is so weird and different and buck the trend of the norm so much because of how much work they did to it after the fact, with production, with taking different parts and melding them together. It was almost like the studio was not just an instrument, but like the producer. You know what I mean? They had producers, but the studio did so much of that work. To me, as much as I've owned and listened to Bitches Brew a good deal, I still don't know it. I know it, but I still don't get it. That is such a deep, and and there's times when I do, and there's times when I'm like, yeah, this is a little too abstract today. We're gonna have to put it back. When you go to that level of art, that's what it's going to be. So I'm going to guess that In a Silent Way ultimately will be the more played, more easy listen one, because Bitches Brew can be it's an aggressive, abrasive listen, and it's great at times. Believe me. I haven't mastered that. Here's the ones I believe in Miles's career that I know that I can talk about. And I have so much respect for not only his greatness, not only his ability to switch genres and then reinvent genres so often. He in his words, he did that 5 times, just reinvented jazz music completely 5 times, you know, and in this case went in that rock vein. Um, he's so prolific, it's ridiculous, you know, almost on like a Zappa level. So if you're going to learn the catalog, you better put some time and you better put years into it. So I'm giving him that respect. Yeah, also I can't listen to that every day. It's, you know what I mean? That's a type of, I got to be all in on it. But what I do feel like I've known so far is Kind of Blue, Sketches of Spain, which, you know, you could argue is his best. Someday My Prince Will Come, which is amazing. Bitches Brew. On the Corner is maybe the greatest jazz fusion record of all time, because it's, you know, like mainstream rock and jazz at the same time. It's amazing. And then Star People I own from the early 80s. And that is a whole different miles, and it's weird and it's awesome. Thank you very much, Matt Rise, for forcing me to do that. What else we got here, Mikey? I think we're trying to go 2 hours each week. You down with that? Because that's what I like to bring to the table here. But Two Chang's back in business. That's what I'm talking about. He says, I think Pernell Whitaker is the best at 35 and would have frustrated Duran. I love these type of conversations. All right. This is my backyard fire pit with a 16-ounce double IPA type of conversation. All right. Don't end up in my backyard without permission. I'm telling you that, South Oregon bird. Thoughts, Sweet Pea versus Prime 135 Mosley. You want thoughts on both? I love the argument that if anybody can do it, it's Pernell. I mean, Pernell's on the short list of the greatest defensive fighters of all time, and that includes names like Willie Pep and Floyd Mayweather. Okay, so we are talking about, first and foremost, you know, it's like if you're going to do mythical matchups, normally, even if your guy's not as skilled, you want your guy to be a big time puncher in those matchups because it's a great equalizer. Well, I think Pernell's the opposite. He's so great defensively that's a great equalizer. And he's such a fluid boxer. And the 35 version of him, that power meant more for sure. Yeah, he could have frustrated Duran, but does he beat Prime lightweight Duran? I don't think so. But damn, do I feel like, you know, Pernell Whitaker is like just so routinely underrated, even though he came in big eras for his weight classes, you know, and was in monster fights like the Chavez fight that he got absolutely screwed in, and the, you know, the awesome De La Hoya fight, very heavily disputed fight, but the awesome De La Hoya fight, and even the fight he put up in a losing effort against Trinidad, and, you know, that doesn't even count all of his great fights at 35 and 40 in his, you know, more prime run. But I'm still back in Duran in this 135 argument. But could Sweet Pea slow down Prime lightweight Mosley, who you just have to remember, even though he's this destroyer that I'm telling you about, the experience, you know, he's still building it. He's not that full seasoned fighter at this point. He's more of just a destroyer. So yes, who can decode that ultimately? Well, an absolute badass like Duran, probably, right? Because I do think Duran's the greatest lightweight of all time. But I also think that if somebody can decode Pernell at lightweight, is perfect for that. So yes, I'm going to take in my mythical modern lightweight rankings. Don't make me try to take Joe Gans and Harry Greb and do weird things that I'm not prepared for. Okay. All right. I'm going to have to do more work in that. But in this modern run there, yeah, I'm still going to take Duran at lightweight. I argued myself into Sweet Pea and then mythical Mosley at lightweight. Okay. We're probably forgetting some people. I mean, Oscar at lightweight was great too. People, you know, obviously people forget how great Oscar was because he's so ridiculous. I'm glad that Dan Rayfield's been on the last week on Twitter, like really defending this era of legends against sort of new fans who don't know. And I, you know, that always happens, but, and I know it's hard even when I give you my pre-program rant that I always do about De La Hoya being my favorite fighter. And here's why. And I stand by those reasons, and I do, but don't you dare forget how great he was, especially Trinidad fight and below, especially that. I think that loss was a turning point where he stopped giving his all and fell deeper into his demons. But give me the Oscar against Pernell. Give me the Oscar, obviously, against Ike Corte, because that man was a man. And if you don't think every time I'm at like a media dinner, I'm too good to go up and not fanboy Oscar, because you can't really fanboy a guy like Oscar because he's so ridiculous, but just give him a kind of halfway campione him. You know what I mean? Just like give him the respect and tell me the story about the Corte 12th round. Regale me, because I'm not better than needing to hear that from a legend. That's why I can't be own people. Okay. All right. I can't be old Joel Casamayor one time. And he deserved it. The guy's an absolute badass. All right. That's what we're talking about here. This sport matters. It used to matter. It might matter again next year. Matters this Saturday when Bivol and Beterbiev get together. Maybe Morning Combat was never supposed to be a successful show. Maybe it was an evil plan by me to turn MMA fans into boxing fans. That's brilliant. We should do a documentary about that, Jake. All right. There you go, Mikey. What else you got? Dr. Sweatpants. What a name, dude. And what a friendly move right there. Crystal ball prediction. Max versus Ilya. Poatan versus Gon. Jeez. Gon? Really? I don't think that's happened. All right. Obviously you reserve the right to change. And sometimes you think you know who's going to win in a matchup. Like I was Bivol for a while, and I'm kind of leaning Beterbiev again, and I don't even know what my pick's going to be tomorrow. My pick yesterday was Beterbiev by late knockout. We'll see what I pick tomorrow, because I'm allowed to do that, because you're going to talk yourself in and out of things when a fight's so good, because you just need to see it. I just need to see what it looks like. I'm paid to tell you what it might look like, but I just need to see it for myself. Max and Ilya, I've been really, and maybe it's like this subconscious, I'll play the other half to Luke, who's so damn in on Ilya, it's ridiculous. But the tape does tell you that at least 70% of Luke's hard on should be respected. The other part of it is like, it's like bloatation. It's like, man, I love this guy from Spain, and I love, Madrid. Luke loves Madrid. Is it Madrid? Yeah, he loves Madrid. So I've been really talking myself into Max. I really see lanes that how Max wins this fight. Obviously, I see the flip side and saw what Topuria did to Volkanovski. And even if that is a 75% Volkanovski or whatever it was on the quick turnarounds and the head kick knockout before that, the way he did that, man. I mean, that's why, we have fun with Luke riding hard on the Topuria train, but we also are like, yeah, this guy might be he might be the next big thing. But I'm still picking Max right now, okay? Okay. And maybe I'm overcompensating for missing it all those years. Not maybe. I thought I was at times. Maybe picking Max in the third Volkanovski fight was me overcompensating for years of not getting it right. But the Max since that Volkanovski fight is a different fighter. I wish people gave him more respect, and by proxy, Arnold Allen, for how great that fight was with the two of them, and how really they both fought like champions that night. Arnold probably should have done more, but look, this version of Max can win this fight. Okay. What's the flip side of your, against Gon? That's an interesting striking match. That really is. I could talk myself into Poatan winning that. I could. I wonder if Gon would use more of his physical tools on that, or if he would just be Gon. I mean, he is 6'5" and jacked and athletic as shit, right? I wish sometimes, I don't know what I wish for Gon. I wish Gon would put it together, because there was that point where he was really peaking and coming on and looking like heavyweight 2.0, and Aspinall has taken that mantle from him. But yeah, I think Poatan could knock him out too. I don't know what to make of Poatan at heavyweight. I don't know if it's going to go like disastrous, but disastrous in a cool way, but you lost by knockout, or if he can put on the right weight. It depends on what the situation is. He getting a last minute call for a heavyweight opportunity, a somewhat last minute. Some people say, hey, man, he needs to build his body. I wonder if this related, I'm allowed to go long on this. It's my channel, but I wonder if related to him posting that Aspinall picture, which was very cryptic on Instagram, and are all understanding that, don't do 3 title defenses in 176 days again. That was awesome. That was a cool record. That just added a lot to your legacy, by the way. You're fucking awesome. Don't do that anymore, though, because you're getting older. And you really got to value how many fights you have left if you want to maximize this opportunity at history. I feel like a history coach for these fighters. When there's a sniff of a window, when it opens up. That's why I was for Cejudo maybe going up and fighting Volkanovski for a belt to try to become the triple champ. I do want this to happen in my era. You should as a fan, I believe. But I don't really know what the Poatan heavyweight experience will look like. But what if he is taking this time off? What if in his mind he's thinking, yeah, it's October now. I'm going to rest for a while, and then I'm going to target maybe even International Fight Week next year. So that's like a solid break. What if he doesn't tell anybody and he builds his body up for heavyweight? No, they got to fight. He's got to fight Ankalaev first if he wins. See, this is where, man, I really hate that UFC booking that Ankalaev Rakic fight. Not only should the last fight have been Ankalaev, but even if it wasn't, even if you did go Roundtree, you should have said, hey, Ankalaev, we'll just like, you're gonna have to wait, but you're getting Poatan next. Because I'm a sucker for history. I do want to see if he can do this, but I want to see him put it on the weight the right way, and I want to see him figure out how to be the same guy in that. Yeah, we all do. Hey, you can't have it all right? You can't have it all. Let me try to rip through a couple of these more. I want to try to get to everybody if I can. I appreciate you taking the time. I mean, how many people are here? Oh, not many, but thank you for, we got a party in here just the same. Oh, Dave Sandine, right on topic there. What's next for Adesanya? Is he still a pay-per-view fighter? Thank you, Dave, for your patronage. Thank you thank you all. It's a good question because like he's advanced in age. You wondered too about him. I mean, he's probably solidly 35 or 36 right now, right? Or is he, where is he at, Mikey? Do we even know this? I'm sure he'll tell me. I wonder how much he's got left too in that same regard. 35. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I want to see the fourth Poatan fight. I'm asking a lot here. I'm fantasy matchmaking a lot. I think I just fantasy matchmake Poatan against John Aspinall or Gone to answer your question. But what about that 3-fight plan I did say on MK? What about if it's Ankalaev next? We are putting Poatan late in age at this point. By the time, if he does take time off, then fights Ankalaev, and then my next fight in that 3-fight plan for Poatan was Adesanya at light heavyweight for the championship. I'm fine with him getting the pass to the front of the line because that rivalry is so special. And in an MMA sense, we do need to see the finale of it. When both guys have definitive stoppages in title fights, yeah. And if Poatan, and I think it's important, for all my talk about heavyweight, I do think it's important that he has to go through Ankalaev, so there's none of this asterisk of like, you fought striker after striker, even though some of these strikers are badass. Like, I'm going to take nothing away from either Prohatska win. You know what I mean? Like, these guys are legit killers. Is it the same run that DC went on these others? No. But this guy is insane, the history he's doing. But what about Adesanya? It looks like Strickland's next for DDP. And if you're Adesanya, how far should he be expected to go down the contendership to get one get well fight to get back in for another shot? Or does he kind of just linger? Or does he start building his body for 205, knowing either that his big cash out fight, no matter what, is Poatan, but maybe that's a way to extend if he commits physically, right? In the same ways he didn't for the Blachowicz fight, even though I respected the balls of, don't forget, Izzy was so great and hot back then that we were talking about him in 3-division mode. We were saying he was going to beat Blachowicz at light heavyweight and then go fight John at heavyweight. We said some crazy things here when the fan in us starts to fantasy matchmake. I reserve the right to be a journalist who fantasy matchmakes because sometimes I love this game, okay? Most of the time. I don't know if I want Adesanya back in here in contention. I mean, what are we going to do? A Costa rematch? Well, okay. I either want a Costa rematch for an opportunity for him to get right back into a title shot with a win, or I'd actually think about, if I'm him, putting on more bulk and going and making a try at light heavyweight, knowing that he already did that in kickboxing and fought at high. I think he fought at heavyweight for a bit too. So yeah, that's what I would like. But I'm just a white belt fan at the end of the day. Mike, you got more, I think, that you need me to bang right here. Let's hit him. And I appreciate all the questions, folks. Thank you so much. Dave Sandine, you're a real player in this game. You have any fun DoorDash stories? Yeah, so so there is an element, and this is what, like, if you think it's lame, and it's kind of lame too. I'm not doing it for virtue signaling of my blue collarness, although I like to rub that in and play that up. I did it because it was an opening and I needed some extra cash, and it was a great thing to occupy my mind in a tough spot, right? Tough spot when MK went away and Showtime Boxing went away, and we're kind of figuring out. Happens to everybody. It's the nature of this business. But I loved the fact that I was this other person. Maybe other people who have gig jobs or delivery jobs like this can understand. And I've always loved the idea of delivery job. I used to deliver parts for a factory. I've always loved that element. I've had jobs where there's been delivery elements to it. I have no problem. I love driving. I love long road trips, all that. there was just something about, like, I didn't expect to care. I didn't expect to, like, care that I'm helping my community in some way. I didn't expect to care on the level I did each order for the care that I would give them. I wanted to win at this job and perform. And there was times where I didn't have boundaries in terms of, like, how low of an order would you accept? Are you willing to accept orders in bad areas, like certain parts of Hartford? And are you willing to do that at night? In the beginning, I was willing to just roll the dice and go for it. It was fun because there's this part you don't realize. Maybe some of you out there that have done it, you do. You're almost like this superhero in your own video game or your own movie, your own like B action movie. And it's like, and especially when you're doing there's crazy moments on the road or you're delivering to a kind of a dicey area and you get away. Yeah, there's that part of your brain that's like, that $6 Subway drop off, not worth it in the end for the risk you put yourself through. You're right. But what a rush, right? Animal Hawk, right? Like, what a rush. There were parts where you're almost like, this is an alternate universe, and I'm the star of this, of this action movie, and I'm gonna get these people their food come hell or high water. And the first night I went to some motel that was on the edge next to this tiny airport in Hartford, and I had to go to a liquor store and get some 40s. I'm like, man, these guys know how to party. And I went into the motels like 11 at night, and I got to meet this guy in the room, and I got to take his ID and scan it. And this dude comes out, walking barefoot, and he's falling against the wall. And I mean, that's an awkward conversation because I don't get the money unless I get that ID, shot. I got to take a picture of it. It turned out I had to use certain negotiation skills that I didn't expect to. Then you get to a point and you're like, wow, this is really this is an unnecessary burden I'm putting on my car and my own safety. But yeah, I found that as much as when I accepted that job at that time, and I wasn't just going to sit at home. I was going to get out there and work. That's what I do. That's what I do. That's the way I'm wired. Beast of a work ethic. I was like, I don't know. I tried to look at it as like, there's some people that need this. There's some people that can't drive. There's some people that whatever, you know what I mean? Like, let me help, let me give back, let me help out. And it was oddly rewarding. And for how much I thought it was a cool job because you didn't have to talk to people, the times you talk to people turned out to be the best part of the job. So there you go. There you go. I have had a few, people answer the door wearing just underwear, like a few of those, but nothing too crazy. These are the same questions I always ask my UPS drivers, by the way. I guess I'm just intrigued by people. I'm always like, what's the weirdest shit you see when you drop things off? You know what I mean? I didn't ultimately see that much weird stuff, but at least like 8 or 9 times I was in some sketchy areas and there were sketchy people trying to track me down and, bring me over to their side. And, you gotta make some negotiations in those moments, but it was, I was making a movie and I was a star, and it was, it's not going to win an Academy Award, but it was a really fun movie. Mikey, what else we got here in the finish? But this is overtime. What do you got for me? I do, Vermont. Thank you for the donation. Do I like Caitlin Clark? Yeah, I've come around on women's basketball in the same time frame that most people did, and a lot of that is the Caitlin Clark experience, particularly when she was in college, which I was like, it's like from the beginning I watched, from miles away, and then got closer and closer and closer, and then by the end I was watching her tournament run her senior year, like most people. I think how that coincides is I live in Connecticut, so UConn women's basketball is it's unavoidable here, and I've really worked hard at avoiding it for most of my life, but this era with, Paige Beckers in particular and coming so close to win and injuries and stuff, it's become a reality show. And I do believe that not only is women's basketball the best it's ever been in terms of the quality on the court, whether we're talking about college or in particularly the W, as they now call it, they also have like the right stars at the right time, the right rivalries. It's a chippy league. Like, for all the things I cannot connect with the new NBA because I'm so stuck in what the late 80s and 90s basketball was, and it wasn't just my love for the NBA, it was my love for playing it. And I still play today to some degree, and it still matters to me. Okay. And it's an older, slower, physical game. And that's kind of what the WNBA is now, where I can not relate to this new NBA where the lane's wide open and guys like Steph Curry can be all-timers, even though, he'd be Dana Barros in 1995. And I know that's not fair, but I like to make that joke to rile people up. But, if he drove the lane, they'd put him on his ass. That's what you did back then. the WNBA is kind of like that right now. So watching, there's some physicality and rivalry and, near fights. And I'm just like, yeah, there's some pretty damn good basketball. I watched a good amount of that Las Vegas, New York series. And yeah, I've watched, I don't really watch games anymore. What I do is while I'm listening to records, go on YouTube. And if I know there was like a big WNBA game or a big NCAA women's tournament game, I'll watch the little 10-minute highlights of the best plays with the sound down and, sort of learn about the game that way while I'm just rocking out to Deep Purple's, self-titled third album, which is like real psychedelic and weird and people forget about it, right? Right before Ian Gillian and Glover came in and they turned their sound around. But though it's usually what's going through my head as I'm watching this. But yeah, Caitlin Clark's amazing. And she had to deal with a lot of ish this year. And I thought she showed how tough she was mentally and physically in the end. And I'm glad they made her earn it too, just the same. And Angel Reese is a fun growing star too to follow, just like a lot of the, more traditional WNBA stars that have been there for a long time. They got something going. I mean, would I ever think that I'd be here on a podcast telling you the WNBA is kind of awesome? To a certain degree, it's kind of awesome. I can't believe that. Is it them or is it me? It might be me, but there you go. What else you got, Mikey? Anything else here before we shut up this shop, shut down it? Atomic Photoshop, thank you for being a friend. All right. Favorite bar, brewery, etc. in the Hartford area? It's a good question. I don't drink much anymore because I have old man's disease, and any random 1 to 2 beer evening could leave me with a massive hangover and feeling like there's a javelin stick out of my head. But I still like to get down every once in a while. I don't really go out a lot in this area, so I almost like, it's not that I don't have an answer. I like to get together with my high school friends and play cards. In fact, I'm doing that tonight. And, we hit up some brewery. There's a brewery that we used to go to in Southington, Connecticut, not far from Hartford, called Kinsman. That has great pizza there. And I get down with that and their beer. But I've really taken the foot off the gas of drinking. You probably saw that develop through Room Service Diaries with Luke, where I almost never drink now. Maybe like 1 beer 2 nights a week with my wife while she's having wine, or maybe out with a rare time with the boys. Tonight I'll put down a few IPAs, but I'm not even like, what's your favorite beer at the moment? I'm just not even in the game as much anymore. And it's better for my liver considerably. And then if I go out to eat, I'm going to get like a Moscow Mule. That's become sort of my safe, low hangovers with that kind of abuse. It's an unpredictable game of roulette that isn't new to me. This is something that started in my late 20s. I usually just push past it, but it sucks because damn, do I love, a good double New England IPA, right? Like something like citrusy and something. Yeah. Can't talk to you about that anymore though. Let's go with, we got any more, Mikey? Like 2 more, and then we'll just bang out of here. Just bang energy drink. Luke is back on bang in a big way. Alan, unbelievable, dude. Future plans with Inside the Box, biggest boxing aficionado up in the Wonginator. I didn't know this about you, that you get down on the box. We've had some. Remember we said that guy Punch Drunk Pete? Is he still alive? I met him at the 3 Margarita show, and he disappeared worse than Damien the Donk, who was once Donk of the Year. Wonginator. Yeah, the future plans for Inside the Box with Rafe Bartholomew is first and foremost to just be consistent and get back at it again. I love that Rafe is back on the scene watching again. He's a snarky dude. But I think if we just keep showing up and some weeks there's not going to be a lot going on, but we got a lot to catch up on, I think, him and I, from all those lost years. That's just fun to chat with him. So I want to certainly build consistency with Rafe. Of course, I'd love some idea if we can make the technology work to like rewatch old fights or, companion watch alongs or something. I'm always down for that for sure. But I got to get with Mikey and get the soundboard capabilities. However, in this modern era, we can do it. And it's always going to be hard because we used to do it on an audio pod. It's harder in a video pod to really sell it consistently and not be a burden. But if I have the ability to drop sounds, that's what a show like that is really built upon. It's built upon the absurdities of boxing, which is daily. That thing I told you guys, that Top Rank series, what was it? This Boxing Life, the boxing. I forgot I already forgot what it was called. Check it out, because there's this great moment in there where Dan Canobio, of CompuBox fame and Inside Boxing Live, big Dan Canobio fan, where he's like, boxing is awesome, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, and it's also got the craziest people in the world. And it's so true. The fact that the powers that be in boxing are all, you know, in a fun way, batshit crazy, has always been a big part of why this game rules. Okay. So yeah, I want to keep growing that. I want to keep growing. Oh, Joe, thank you. Wow. Joe, you didn't need to do that. Thank you. And thank to your sweet cheeks. I want to build all of these little vehicles. I want to start a 90s forever spinoff here. You know, I'd love more of these. You know, I'd love to get Jed back involved again. He seems interested. That was fun. I got to get back on the road with these 20 questions and get these booked and get them in. I'm reaching out to different people, but it's fun. I didn't think it'd be this fun. I didn't think you guys would like it this much. I mean, we're not, you know, I mean, I'm not trying to pretend this is a success on a level it isn't. I literally had no idea where this was going to go, or if it ever could get, you know, successful or draw a dollar or two. But I feel like we're building something together. So that makes me happy. And I'm like, man, you know how many retired 90s NBA players I'd love to call up and talk shop with? Like, that's the kind of stuff I want to do. All right. I don't know if you're coming with me on this journey. Mike, you got one or two more here? Just bang energy drink. There we go. Tacoma Aroma's he's making his moves, okay? He's making his moves. Whose style of play would translate better? LeBron in the 90s or MJ in present day? Oh my God. Now, the easy answer, which I won't give you, is that they're so great that they could play in any era with their level of poise, athleticism, pinpoint shot, and all that, you know, that it doesn't even matter. And that's true. Because LeBron is the ultimate physical freak of nature that we've ever seen in this league, which you mirror that with his longevity, his assist numbers, which is probably the most underrated part of his game. That's why he gets to be number 2 all time, or even argumented into number 1. And the longevity is just stupid. But would he been able to keep? He wouldn't have been able to keep up the longevity in the 90s because it's such a physical game. But he was built for it. He was physically built for it. He's a freak of nature. Even with a slowed down game. I mean, I love. It started with the Heat that LeBron really started to focus on building a post game. And I love when he leans into that more. I'd almost wish old LeBron, I mean, the fact is he doesn't have to, because he can still run, and the league, you know, the rules are set up in a way that really helps support that. But I would have loved, you guys remember when Magic Johnson came back in 1996 after being retired, after having coached the Lakers, and it didn't work out. And then he made that run, and it didn't work because that young Lakers team did have a lot of talent. That 95 team was fun with Nick Van Exel, Eddie Jones, Cedric Sabalas, who was an all-star that year, and Vlade Divac. And it was like Magic kind of fit in, but also didn't, because it really muted what Nick Van Exel can do, even though old Magic in a part-time role was still doing like 14 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists a game. But he worked. He was much more bulky after that 2+ year retirement. He played point forward, almost like, you know, a prime Hornets version of Anthony Mason, only, you know, much better passer for sure. He played big point forward in the post, backing people down. I'd love to see LeBron in that role in the 90s when the lanes flooded, you know, and throwing pinpoint passes, but also being able to almost get any offense he wants. Yeah. So he would dominate in there. But would MJ dominate more? Yes. So the answer is MJ, because this era would only help MJ even more. Now, MJ didn't need a lot of help because he had the referees and he's the greatest player of all time, right? But, you know, but he had to deal with physicality that they don't even know about today. I mean, he had to rebuild his body to get through the Pistons to finally eliminate them, because it was just pounding. I mean, I love putting on a record, going onto YouTube and watching like 89 conference finals, game 5, Bulls Pistons, and not even really knowing in my head where we are in this series, but we get back into it and I'm there. That's a physical ass game. That's a man game. I just think in the contrast of styles and rules that it would allow MJ to be even more nasty and dominant in this era. It would be wild to think about. Thank you, Tacoma Aroma. One final one here for the people, and then I'm going to close up this store. Okay. Thank you for patronizing it. Really appreciate you. Mikey, thank you for getting my back as always there. The Wonginator, you've been great. Lazy Beds in the house. Maybe that's it. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's it. I think I can get one more from over here. How about this one? At Respect 9654. This will shut us down here. Which do you enjoy more, boxing or MMA? And simple answer, which sport is putting on the best shows overall? So that would seem obvious because I'm a boxing guy. So yeah, I enjoy boxing more. But when MMA is at its best, it's so much better than boxing in such key categories. One is the amount of consistent matchmaking and good fights because it's a different model and control level. Tell him, Reg. Another is, I mean, when you're at a UFC event and when you're sitting in like the media rows in the second or first row there, their production, even in arena, is just, I mean, it's grand. It's grand. It's incredible. I mean, so is boxing on the highest level pay-per-view main event. But the answer is going to be boxing at its best always. But I would say short of that, MMA is really all. I mean, it's really close, especially the peaks, especially the Reebok era, covering events after covering boxing for so many years. And then in 2016, going to cover big UFC pay-per-views with Conor at the top. It was just better organized, better access, especially back then, to get what you're looking for. And it just raised the stakes and the energy and the excitement of fight week, knowing that there's so many more fights on the card that you'd care about. And the way that UFC used to promote and push the brand and the brands of the elite fighters, it really was. There were fights that were unavoidable, MMA fan or not. They did it right. They were the top of the top. So from a promotion standpoint, there's stretches where MMA is absolutely dominated, and I've almost liked it more. But boxing being back lately, especially on the highest end, playing the biggest notes. I mean, Fury Usyk 1 was just a freaking classic, and it's just one of many great fights that finally happened in the last 2 years and will continue to happen. It's blown us away. So for me, it's always going to be boxing because that's where I come from and that's what I care about. It's classic. It's noble. I relate so much more to life watching it, even more than MMA, the get knocked down, get back up again type of thing, There's nothing like it. It's also ridiculous and absurd and disgusting, right, Reg? But that's part of it too. So we got to accept it all. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. This was fantastic. All right. Reggie's had enough though. So we're gonna have to take this party out of here. I'm your boy BC. Please like the things that come up on this channel, subscribe. We're growing it. We're making progress. That's all been you guys. So I appreciate that so much. Thanks for the love in this chat. Check out, of course, Inside the Box episode 3 with Rafe Bugs. We just loaded it up yesterday. We go deep on Beterbiev-Bivol and really go deep on Zanabek, the unified middleweight champion. No one's talking about him. We're going to talk about him a lot. Also, 11 a.m. on Friday, Morning Combat Fridays. We're back in your face, in your hole, deep in your hole. All right. So just get us out of there, please, because we're going to be there a while. Things are turning around. All right. Maybe I'll pick up that guitar again. We'll see. We'll find out what happens, Reg. It's a great time to be alive. Thanks so much. We're out of here.